Good afternoon and welcome back, everybody. Everybody here, thank you for being here, and anybody at home watching, we thank you for watching. The time is now 1 o'clock, and the day is August 17th, and I will now call the meeting to order.
Okay, Mayor and Council, if there are no objections, we'll start with the Police Department at this time.
Yes, ma'am.
And Police Department is going to start on page
Police Department.
41.
41.
43600 is Police Administration. There are two employees, which are the Police Chief who's seated at the table and his Administrative Secretary, Anita Garcia. Martinez. I'm very sorry.
It's okay.
I apologize for not being present for the last two sessions. There were some issues that I was attending to. And I'm not sure exactly what the process had been, but when I was last here, we were going line item by line item. Would there be any objections to us going section by section?
Actually, that's what we switched it to. We're just
Perfect.
going section by section.
Perfect. Okay. We'll start with personnel services. There is a decrease to the wages for the two employees in the amount of $22.96. The majority of it is compromised or composed of the reductions we're anticipating from medical insurance, and there is a reduction of no overtime for this particular department, and a little change to workers' compensation.
Council, any questions on personnel services?
Okay.
No questions, Council?
No.
Okay. Okay, we can move on to materials and supplies.
Materials and supplies has an increase of $700 in totality. There were decreases to wearing apparel. Anita, were you in a uniform?
No, I think it was for the boots.
For the boots.
Correct.
Yes. The safety boots were removed. That's the $100 savings you're seeing in 5220. There's an adjustment to fuel and an adjustment to repair and maintenance and supplies, and a reduction to operating.
Operating supplies, or let's start with repair and maintenance, $1,000. This is for,
Those are for the police units, or for the chief's unit, anytime there's repairs or oil changes, tires, anything that needs to go to that one. That one usually gets charged out of the garage, out of our account. They take care of whatever needs to be repaired, and then they just pull it out of our account.
okay. So we had adopted $350 and revised $1,621, then went to $1,000. But Rex, aren't you driving a new vehicle?
Yes, I am, ma'am.
So do you foresee $1,000 worth? that you
I would hope not, but we don't know what the future brings, right? So I say no, because it's brand new, so.
But like 2016 was an older vehicle, am I correct or no?
It was a 2014 Tahoe that I and Lieutenant Sertuche gave up to make it a patrol unit. So I sent it to get it painted and striped and lit up, and now it's in the unit right now. It's as 2 units.
Okay.
They had 20, if I'm not mistaken, about 24,000 miles.
Yeah, that's why I'm just saying, my point is that it was an older vehicle, more miles than new vehicle, but it's more.
Actually, the girls said there were some miscoding, so it may have been that they coded the wrong department. So it's going to be a lot less.
Patrol vehicles maintenance was coded. I am in the process of going over those. There's a lot of units that they have, so I need to just make sure I'm coding them to the correct divisions. So that's going to get cleaned up also, so that'll be moved out of there. It's actually less than what they spent, what showed that they spent.
On his vehicle alone.
That, yeah, in this year, yes. So it could go down.
I think that sometimes happens when you move one from one budget to another. They forget to switch out.
Yeah. Okay. And then operating supplies, Can you all tell us like what?
Yes, ma'am. Operating supplies are supplies for the whole building, like toilet paper, paper towels, soap, ink, batteries, anything that the department needs to run its operations.
Okay. Council, any questions?
Should some of that be in janitorial, perhaps?
That'll, in
The
18
cleaning,
will be.
either cleaning supplies or
Yeah,
janitorial,
in
is that how
2018
you
we'll
broke
be-
it out?
We'll be moving that out, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, council?
Okay, so where do y'all get this from, the operating supplies?
We usually order it from,
We've been ordering from F&D. We order our janitorial supplies from there. Mr. Hinojosa gives us a discount and they deliver the same day, whatever we might need.
Okay.
Also in that line item, they get charged for, I believe they have water. you
Oh,
have
yes,
water.
we don't have a water fountain, so we pay our water out of there. I think it's Everest that we
Yes,
pay
it's
from.
Everest. So a big chunk of that is in all.
Yeah, because that is kind of high, 3,050.
And during the summer months, our water consumption goes up tremendously.
I can imagine. Okay. Any other questions, council? No? You know, I guess going back or going forward, and I could wait, but the repair and maintenance supplies is something different than vehicle in this line item. Because we have vehicle repair and maintenance, and that is significantly, it's $750. So this one is for repair and maintenance supplies of the PD then, the building, or?
No, that's supplies like if they need new wipers or new tires or belts or fan or with filters or anything that goes towards the vehicle.
Is that right, y'all?
It's because it's just supplies, and then there's the repairs is when
think-
they repair.
There's
it's a
two different ones.
Two different line items, yes ma'am.
There's a repair and maintenance supplies, so that's like if they were take it to the garage and the garage changed the oil or like
Right.
she said the wipers, so they'll just charge out the
part.
the part that they use. Now if they send it out to a company to have it repaired, that would be a service that they provided. So that would
Gotcha.
be on the bottom
The
one, so
bottom part.
54.
Gotcha. Okay, so there we're looking at wipers and
Oil
things
filters
that
and
the garage
uh-huh.
might have to. Okay.
Yes ma'am.
It's mainly vehicle supplies, but I think, well, I don't know if any kind of
Building maybe.
building supplies.
And on
might come
admin, they
in.
do, anything for the building does hit admin's budget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was my concern too, looking at all the different budgets. I looked at that too. Okay. Purchase property services?
Oh, in totality, there's a reduction of $7,648. Gas and electricity has a reduction of $6,500. Vehicle repair and maintenance is reduced by $5,098. There is $4,000 included for building repair and maintenance, and I think that refers back to what Vanessa was saying, that any maintenance in the building hits this particular department's account. And then a $50 differential for equipment hires and rentals, and I'm assuming it's at the copiers?
Yes ma'am.
The copiers.
Okay. Okay, fill me in on equipment hire and rentals.
It's a lease
It's a copier.
purchase for the copier that we have in our office. What that entails is if anything breaks on the machine or toner, whatever, all of that is covered by this lease agreement. They come in and they repair it, and they give us, or it's part of, like, we get the toner for free. We don't have to constantly be purchasing it. It's all included in that amount for the year.
Okay. Do y'all share copiers with support services?
No, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Okay. Any questions on this, council? No? Okay. Other purchase property?
Other purchase property has a decline of $15,000. The communication line item is a big one, and Anita, you'll want to walk us through what subscriptions are part of
That's
that.
probably the foremost,
Yeah.
whatever, the phone service for the building, possibly internet as well. So, possibly the chief's phone. He's the only one that his phone gets paid out of there. So anything dealing with communications, is dealing with throughout the whole building, that gets paid out of there.
Does that include the radios, or is that something separate?
No, that's
That'll
something
hit the
separate.
individual departments.
Okay. But y'all pick up the slack for the internet and communications for,
I guess
Awesome.
for the whole building, yes. We pay because there's so many users, I guess, within the building and all of the, it all gets all paid out through like the departments depending on what they need. Like patrol has their own separate, because they have extra that they need in order for their units to connect and all the, connectivity issues that we have. Because they have the laptops in their cars and stuff like that, so.
Okay.
But yeah, we have a big old server room
Yeah.
that has everything, our servers, and when repairs need to be made, and sometimes they need to go upstairs into our attic, and our big old phone boxes in there, and
Dispatch is out of there too?
the dispatch, well, we're all connected, yes, ma'am, but,
They have their own
they have
budget on
kinda like their own,
communication?
yes, support services, dispatch goes into support services.
Okay. Okay. Council, any questions on other purchase property? No? Professional technical service?
Professional and technical services has an increase of $3,025.
What that consists of is we pay Jimels County to house our Class C misdemeanor arrests, and we have to pay them, I believe it's $75 per day for each individual that's arrested by the city or county that's a Class C misdemeanor. Like if it's our warrant, we pay them to house them. So, for instance, if somebody gets arrested at 11:30 at night, and that's $75, and then it goes to the next day at $75. So we pay for this individual to be housed. Only Class C misdemeanors, all felonies, whatever, they take care of that. But we pay that cost. We also pay our PTS Solutions, which is the software that we use
Okay.
and for records and for dispatch, it help, we pay a part of that as well, out of there.
So basically those two, Anita?
Yes, ma'am.
That technical one is always so,
And the reason that it's gone up is because more arrests have been made. And sometimes, if they are sentenced because they came to court, to municipal court, and they don't pay, the judge will place them in jail until that's paid out, I guess. So it could run from 10 to 15 days sometimes. So we have noticed an increase that it's gone from maybe like $2,000 a month to almost $4,000 a month compared to last year. So it does go up, and we are trying to do other things because there are some class misdemeanors that can be like citation only, but it all depends on the situation, at the time.
with the fact that you just said that it's going up,
Yes.
it seems that you left the budget, you left the proposed, requested amount rather
Well-
low. If you said it, your
Yes.
statement just said it just went up, so.
It just,
it's concerning.
It differs.
Yeah, it varies from year to year.
And sometimes, you could have a month where
Right.
you arrest less than last month, so, but that doesn't stop us from making arrests, right? And again, it just differs. I've seen it where we sometimes pay 2,000, and then next month maybe 3,200 or 2,800, so it just differs.
It varies, like from year to year. Sometimes we don't pay as much, like we adopted 22, the year before that was 28, before that I believe it was lower than that. And that's why we have told some of the officers if it does not justify being arrested and they can just be given a citation and, give them the citation for the class A misdemeanor and send them on their way. But there are some class misdemeanors that cannot be given a citation, they have to be placed in jail.
Where we talked to the officers about, there has been an increase in for example, Walmart and H-E-B.
Yes.
They have their in-store security, and I mean, they're about last month, man, they were averaging about 4 or 5 thefts a day, you know, and we would go and some of it was under $100, right? So, some of them were like $300, $500. So the higher, you know, if it was a Class B or something, we would, of course, take them to jail. And if it was a Class C, we would
Write 'em
issue out, you know, like Anita was saying, it all has to, you know, there's some people, individuals that get arrested and they're rowdy, for example, you know, or they can't believe they get caught. And when you get there, there's, you know, loud yelling and stuff. And so it all depends on the situation that you're going to encounter.
Yeah, for me, I just feel like, you know, if we're undershooting it.
Right.
When last year it was 56, and then you say that it's more and more, and it's one of those deals that I just don't want to come in and say, hey, it's 25.
I know. I
And we're
understand.
actually looking at, we're actually looking at more like 50. Now, is it offset
What was the last one?
by fines? I mean, do you understand?
Yes, unfortunately, no. Sometimes if these people do spend, they have time in jail, they have the right to ask for jail time credit. So, we are paying for them to be housed. If they are given the jail time credit, nobody sees any money.
Through the month
Except
of
the jail.
oh, sorry. Through the month of May, we were at 35,000, and it was just a projection. Just since we used a high month to try and finish out the year, we don't really know yet what it.
Okay.
So that might still even be high, the 53.
And that's one of those line items that we are gonna have a separate new code for just the jail expense.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't
Housing
think it
expense.
should
Yeah,
fall
yeah.
under technical.
It's gonna be a-
Do we have a contract
It-
with them?
Oh, yes.
So should it be a jail contract?
Yes,
Yeah.
it'll actually be a jail contract
Expense?
expense,
Yeah.
but it'll be
Okay.
called.
And what happened is the object code lists, the ones we had, they were
Yeah.
just broad, and they would just try and
Right.
cover for all the
Yeah.
departments.
When's that contract up?
We just,
I think it just
no, it's.
We just entered into a contract, or is?
Or is it just
perpetual?
kind of like a perpetual?
Perpetual?
kind of like a, yeah.
Really?
We haven't signed one
With the county.
With the county? We probably need to
Yes.
consider.
There is that contract. There's also the contract that we have with them for the humane portion that we
Yes.
we do for the
That we
county
need
as
to do,
well.
yes.
So that's something that
Okay.
that's on the list to be discussed with them.
Great, okay.
Okay, council, any other questions on professional, technical service? No. Okay, capital outlay, there is none. Any other questions for police? This one? Nope. Moving on. Support services.
43611 is going to be support services. This is going to include, this is Lieutenant Barrera's division. Well, no, it's Lieutenant, is it
Yes,
Lieutenant
both.
Barrera's?
Yeah, we kind of.
Okay. Lieutenant Barrera's division, it includes the training coordinator who takes care of all the TCO requirements for our officers, in addition to the dispatchers and records.
Total of 14 employees, is that correct?
Yes. Of those 14, 2 are civil service, the remaining are non-civil service.
2 are civil service.
Your lieutenant and your sergeant are civil service employees. The dispatch supervisor has been removed from the budget, and your dispatchers and records clerks are civilian employees.
Was that a removal that was done this year or done the
It was
previous year?
done previous year through attrition. Cost analysis was done, and it was determined it was better served to the department and the traffic to add a dispatcher instead of paying for a dispatch supervisor. Personnel services, I'm gonna take a minute to look.
Sorry, can I ask another question real quick?
Sure, yes, sir.
Yeah, we have a records clerk and the dispatcher. We have 2 and 1 that show unfunded, but were they removed, or what was it? I'm sorry, I may have missed that on that front page.
Or we just
Yes,
combined?
we did, no, we actually did last year through attrition remove a records clerk. They went from 3 to 2, is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Records clerk, yes, there's only 2 now.
Past removal, and then the dispatcher as well?
Yes,
Okay.
So there's
But these are
13.
not changes, I'm sorry, for this year?
no.
Okay.
They were unfunded last year. They're not anticipated to be funded this year. We do keep the position on the summary sheet just for record-keeping purposes. And in case there's ever a question, well, what did you fund and what did you not fund?
Okay.
There is an increase in their overtime budget, 5110. And
What are temporary wages?
Those are your crossing guards.
your crossing guards,
Okay.
for which the school.
The county does.
What's your cost with the school and the county?
No, the county does give us, actually, we just received a check for about 22,000. And one of the things is when you go and renew, I believe, your sticker at the courthouse, there's like $1.50, a child safety fee, and they collect that and they distribute it. And some of that money comes to the city for child safety, and one of them is to help fund the crossing guards.
So the child safety that's on our revenues, that shows, what, 3,000?
Actually, no, it shows up as, let's see, on the revenues, I think I have it like as there's a Jim Wells crossing guard revenue
Okay,
on
mhm.
page 7, on the intergovernmental revenue.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so 25,000. Okay. And that's it. Okay.
That increase in overtime that was coming up, go ahead,
Mhm.
Dan.
Oh, I was going to defer the question to either Chief Lamon or Lieutenant Barrera, because I'm not sure if this is overtime for dispatch.
We do have a two-man dispatching system. The calls do come in. Now, here for a while, we had several dispatchers that were out due to pregnancy and we had to bring people in.
That's right.
Now, it's like anything else. When you have the months of, let's say, May, June, July, and August, you got vacation time. So one leaves, we usually, bring one in because of the call volume that we have. And again, you have to, not anyone can just sit there and be a dispatcher. Now the state has, you have to get certified, okay, so they hold a license also. Now, we can't get an officer to go dispatch, okay, we can't do that. So with saying that is if one's out, we maybe bring in a person for 2 or 3 hours of the whole shift to make it work, and that's where the overtime comes in. Doesn't happen very often, but it does.
They did have a unique year this year in that there were several individuals who had to be out for FMLA. They're back on staff now. When the decision was made to add the one dispatcher back, or change the dispatch supervisor to the dispatcher, there was a cost analysis done, and it was determined with the number they had on staff, they could maintain their operations. And while there would be a need for overtime, it was more cost-effective to book the overtime, schedule for the overtime, than to actually book for an additional position and have the benefits and everything else that comes with it.
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay.
Does the county also have their own public safety dispatch system?
Yes, they have their own, we have our own.
Any consideration to considering combining that into an intergovernmental cooperation sharing system? It would save over 200 and something thousand.
Ms. Moran, that's been talked about in the past. Now, we actually haven't sat down and when I say county and us, to actually put numbers together. That's something that, we can probably do and see what direction it takes us.
I think,
Calls for change, and, you know.
I think it would be something to sit down and talk at the table about. I think it would be beneficial to both county and city to have a shared dispatch, public safety dispatch system. Most cities are doing that nowadays, given the economic conditions we're facing.
And if that's something that we can certainly look at and see if we can make it happen. Again, you know, it's like anything else. People sometimes resist on change,
I know.
right?
Oh, yes.
But I'm open. I'm open to it. And if it can happen, and if it's beneficial for the city, I'm off to it.
The dispatch
Yes.
handles both fire and PD,
Yes.
correct?
Yes. 911. Like I said, to actually, you know, to actually sit down and I would like, if y'all would like, just one day go by there to actually to see what they do. And honestly, if you cannot double or triple task, you're not gonna make it. There's no doubt in my mind. Now, in my law enforcement career, the only thing I haven't done is dispatch, but the times that I've gone in there, you know, you come out there in 10 minutes saying, man, I can't handle that. So you have to have, I say, a special thing inside of you to actually do it, because you're here answering the phone, 911, and then you got the patrol division calling you too. So you gotta
And
say,
typing.
and typing, and if you can't task,
Yeah.
you're not gonna make it.
Your dispatchers are the first voice that people are going to hear in an emergency. So while they're maintaining the operations, they're also the individuals who are keeping the people calm, who are assuring them that help is on the way. There's sometimes some of our employees who are most overlooked.
Yes, I agree with that statement. Until you can sit down there and actually see it, you're gonna adore them, I guess, and say, man, thank you for the job you're doing, because, like I said, you have to be there.
And there's 9 of them, right? Correct?
8, 7.
7.
Is this the 911 system?
911 calls, and then they answer to the and like Ms. Diane said, we depend on them to actually give us a synopsis as to what the call would go into. So, you know, before we get there, we're in our mind are getting ready for whatever we're gonna encounter, and they are the ones that kind of give us a heads up as to, you know, they're on the phone, they're yelling, hey, there's a gun, hey, they said there's a knife, so we're getting ready.
Right.
You know,
Your
so
eyes.
you have to.
That's why it requires the training and
Yes.
certifications and stuff.
Certifications, bilingually is now part of some of the job requirements. They actually, if I'm not mistaken, carry as many TCOL hours as most of our officers, as far as training requirements.
Now the state, like I said, I think it was last year or so, they now require to be licensed, and once you're licensed, you have to keep up standard hours. And we just hired a gentleman from, used to work for us, left, came back, and you know, you can, I mean, he just fit in. Minimal training, because he was already experienced, and you know, he came to our department running, like I said, you know, and that usually helps, because you don't have to take a month or 2 to train someone, and the computer, you know, and stuff like
Right.
that. So that kind of helped us.
Similar to firefighters and police officers who have basic, intermediate, and advanced certifications, we have several dispatchers who have those same types of certifications. Is the master's the highest?
For police officer, yes, I'm not sure for dispatcher, I know that
Or
it's
dispatch is
I
advanced.
believe it's advanced,
And we
yes.
have 2 or 3.
I think we have
I
3.
know.
3 of them are currently advanced, which is the highest certification you can have.
So we have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 employees in this
Yes.
department.
Yes, 2
That-
dispatchers were not funded and 1 records clerk was not funded.
Okay. Well, because we have, yeah, that's 2.
Yeah, records handle all of the.
That's a different
Yes, that's a
fund.
different department, yes.
What different?
What
same
different,
fund,
same
Same
department,
function.
different
Right.
function, yeah, that's the correct word.
Different function.
But active employees, we have 11.
Yes.
Is the number, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
is the number correct, 366,122?
That's what I was about to
Yes.
ask, because on the second
Yes.
page, it's 383.
383,722. So which one's correct?
You see what, you see what?
Yes.
I see it.
Let me see. Can you pull up the personnel cost calculation? Okay.
And do we know their
Difference is
dispatch,
775.
do we know how much they get paid?
It's under police. Oh, no, no, it's COA.
So we have 7 dispatchers.
No,
So they're at 25.
I'm getting the 366, 122, but I'll have them double check. Because this department is composed of both civilian and civil service personnel, they're actually probably tracked on 2 separate personnel cost calculation sheets, and that may have not linked correctly, but if y'all can double check the number, please.
So Diana, would it be
Yes, ma'am.
safe to say that dispatchers, I mean, give or take, they're 25,000, about 26,000? And records clerks are about 24,000?
If you were to get an average, yes, there is a 10-step
Mhm.
step scale.
Mhm.
And these, if you're looking on page 44, those are base salaries.
Mhm.
Let me see if I have a pay scale with me. Give me 1 second.
What's the number on our pay scale?
What do you mean?
Like number, like we have 7, 10, 23, yeah.
There are 22 or 24 grades.
Okay.
There start with grade 1 and ends at grade 22. There is a 5% jump between grade. Each grade has 10 steps, and there's 1.5% between each step, or 2.5% between each step, I'm sorry. Part of the cuts that were instituted last year were included a freeze. So not only did civilian staff take a 10% pay cut, they have not been able to move through their equity scales. So with each passing year that we don't do that, these individuals are losing now, for example, this year, 12.5%, next year, 15%.
But you're talking, which, like lieutenant dispatcher records or just dispatcher and records?
I'm talking every employee that's non-civil service.
That's non-civil
Yeah.
Which is
service.
dispatchers.
Your
and-
Which is
dispatchers,
dispatcher
your
and
records
records clerk.
clerks, everybody
Okay.
except your fire and police, your uniformed services.
So we saw what it was. This is the base salary, the 366,000, but the salaries on the requested includes the incentive or
Incentives
the
for
pays.
the police officers.
Yes. So some of them do get additional. I don't know how to explain pays, I guess. or-
There's additional pays negotiated in the police contract that apply to civil service personnel. And that's where the difference is coming in. That's 6177, I'm sorry, the difference between the 3,830, yeah, is in stipends between the two civil service personnel, the lieutenant and the training sergeant.
So they get stipends,
Yes, ma'am.
the lieutenant and training sergeant.
Correct.
And the stipends are for?
They vary depending on what their jobs are. The packets that were handed out on the meeting of May 11th, the collective bargaining agreements were in there.
If you pull up the personnel cost calculation, you'll have it.
There is a base pay for all uniform personnel in PD. Then there is additional statutory longevity that is required under Texas Local Government Code. There is a seniority table that they move through as well. So for every year seniority that they receive, there's an amount that they're moving through. There is an additional pay for prior years of law enforcement experience, and it depends on where they came in at the beginning. They receive stipends for TCOL certifications. So if they hold an intermediate, an advanced, or a master's, there are dollar amounts for those stipends as well. I'm looking for the current contract.
Going to law enforcement experience?
Yes, ma'am.
Does it count, I mean, like if they come to us experienced or they earn the experience here?
It's actually double fold.
was
There
what?
is the prior experience law
Okay.
enforcement that is in the contract, which means that when they When they come to us, if they have anywhere from 1 to 5 years of service, and as they remain on staff as the contract stands now, there are dollar amounts for that, and they range from $500 a year to $1,500 a year. Separate from that is the seniority table. The seniority table starts at 6 years and goes all the way to 25 years, and the amounts range from $1,500 a year to $6,500 a year.
Okay. Because everybody's stipends are different too. It's kind of like technical service.
Well,
They're all different.
there's only stipends for PD and fire.
Only PD and fire.
Yes, ma'am. The
Okay.
stipends that individuals may receive that are non-civil service are usually 10%, and it's because they have taken on additional duties that are way beyond their normal scope. There are a few of them, but not very many of them. But the majority of incentive pays, stipends are fire and police.
Okay.
So similar to what I just explained, that police department has additional pays for their certifications, our dispatchers do not receive that same benefit.
Right. And they're our first person to get the call.
Yes, ma'am, but because they're not,
They're not part of the contract.
like, right, they're
Yeah.
not part of the
They're not
contract because they are
civil
not
service.
peace officers.
Right.
So should we probably break that stipend out from the salary, you think? Just so there was no confusion, or is it?
We track it on our end separate, but we certainly could start to do object codes for those particular ones.
That would probably simplify the difference in the numbers here.
So other than dispatch, this department is in charge of crossing guards,
Records.
records,
Training coordinator.
records. Training coordinator, you said, Ms. Ann?
Yes.
Training coordinator is gonna be Sergeant
Perez.
Aniceto Perez.
Mhm.
And he's in charge of all the training. Come at the end of August, September 1st, starts a new cycle. So any certified police officer within the city, if they don't have their mandatory 40 hours, their license gets automatically suspended. So, I'll admit something, is that back when let's say I was on narcotics, and I would say, man, you don't do nothing. What did you do? Just training. Well, guess what? If it weren't for him to have the officers training up to date, there's courses that the officers have to take within 2 years.
Correct.
Your license will get suspended.
Right.
And nothing falls on him. Everything falls on my license. So if I'm not responsible of my own license, then it be it. But his job is to make sure that everyone gets their mandated courses done, and that everyone has their 40 hours done. And to this date, as of last week, there was only one officer that needed 4 hours, and don't quote me on it, but I think today he was gonna attend a class that took care of that. So I commend Sergeant Perez for the job that he does behind the scene, right? He's behind the scene, and they come, and I've been there where Tico shows up unannounced, and I want an audit. And give me that file, this file. And then he goes through it, and if there's any paperwork missing, then he's talked to, and they give you sometimes time to correct it if it's so. In that section, I commend him.
And this is the same training coordinator, training sergeant, same person, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Just a bit.
So then lieutenant oversees this whole department? I'm just trying to learn the
Yes.
whole, there's so much to
Lieutenant
it.
Barrera is in charge of the dispatchers
Okay,
and assists with the secretarial, and also,
I assist records. I do records.
okay, records. And also, he's in charge of training. And on top of that, I have given him the
Narcotics.
to overlook the 2 narcotic guys that we have.
Yes,
So-
humane too.
Ma'am?
Humane.
Humane also, I'm sorry, and you know, that word that she just mentioned, humane, is a division of its own.
Correct.
And we, or when I say we, he gets the brunt of the complaints that he addresses. And we do have two humane officers that are doing an excellent job with what we have. You know what, we just try to satisfy and do the best we can with what we have.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll get to that one. I know that's a whole different beast.
Yes, ma'am. It'll be the last one for
Yeah.
police services.
Okay. And it says it includes the DARE program. I thought we weren't doing the DARE
We don't
program.
have the DARE program anymore.
Okay, why not? If it's in this.
I'm sorry.
Those descriptions just-
Yeah, I need to update the description. We haven't had the DARE program in a while, and
I think since Sheriff Bueno was there.
well, since
No.
Mr.
Since
Bettis, Maggie left.
Maggie was the
Corporal
DARE
Bettis.
officer.
Maggie was. Why? Can I ask why? What did we did?
The
we-
school didn't want to, they used to help fund it,
They would
so it
fund
was
half
like
of
half
it.
and half.
Okay.
And they didn't have the funds and they didn't want to apply for grants or do anything, I believe. It was a big old, so without their support, well, we couldn't.
I wonder if this would be a great time to go back to the table, because again, I'm gonna brag on Dr. Charles. She's very city and schools.
And I agree with that comment. I think that when I received the phone call from her, we just, I guess, hit it off.
Yeah, she's
Now,
amazing.
there, I guess years back was a very, it worked well with the school district. But then I don't know exactly where it phased off. Now when you go to the conferences, the chiefs conferences, they now, you know, don't even talk about that.
Really? Wow.
Though, they, you know, everybody has the same problem with either marijuana or
Yeah.
synthetic.
And it's no surprise,
right.
we are hit hard
So,
with it.
so that is something that I had already spoken to Ms. Charles, that I want to sit down. I have some ideas that I want to run with her, through her, but you know, again, it's something that law enforcement wants to get in, you know, to
Awesome.
try to see, you know, see if we can help. Now, I did talk to her, and what we usually do is during the starting of the school year, which is in 2 weeks, we usually try to send officers to be there in the morning. There's two new students.
Right.
They're lost. You park wrong, and you know. So we got that going. Hopefully everything runs well. But I agree with the comment that
Yeah.
you said about her, and hopefully I told her we have an open door.
Yeah, because we have such a problem.
Yes, we do, ma'am.
And we need to get it while they're still young. Maybe that's that little thing we're missing. I don't want to see that program leave.
Yeah, but
Be
the DARE
gone.
program was very popular when, because of the Enrique Camarena DEA officer
Yes, yes.
that was brutally murdered, so DARE became very, very popular in the schools and stuff. But then as governmental entities started facing budget crunches, that was probably one of the first programs
Yes.
to get cut.
That's unfortunately what happened here.
And that's probably one of the huge expenses that we have, is drug.
Mr. Ramon,
Yes.
do you know how much that program ran, more or less?
You know, honestly, I don't have a figure, but I can get you, or I don't know.
We used to bill exactly half. It was like half of his salary, and then he would buy supplies to hand out to the kids,
Right.
and we
You
would
did
pay half,
have,
and they would pay half.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but there was one officer dedicated
Yes.
solely to that
Yes, he was
program?
dedicated solely to that.
That was not, was he used on patrol?
Maggie, yes,
Okay.
yes, yes, he was.
But then he did that in addition
He
to
did,
it.
but right, he worked patrol, he worked DARE. During the day, he would actually go teach a curriculum. He had a whole curriculum. We'd send him to training every year. Again, it was paid half by us, half by the school district. And then they would also purchase, they helped so much to be able to purchase all of the DARE supplies
Correct.
that
Yeah.
was handed out to the students. And then one year Maggie just came and said that they weren't gonna be able to fund it anymore, and that's kind of where it just dissolved, I
Because
guess.
he left a great impact till today.
Yes,
You
he
know,
did.
when you're around him, you hear people
Um,
come up to him and say,
yeah.
"You're my dare officer."
Yeah, exactly.
So it's still one of those.
We can get the amount, all we have to do
Yes.
is dig,
It's been
in our
years.
records.
It's been a
But
long time.
we can give you an amount as to how much, it was costing us
He left,
to have one.
Lieutenant
Again,
Barrera might be able to do that too.
It just,
He left to work for the DA.
it's just, it is sad when cuts come, they just don't see who they're gonna cut and they do it.
Yeah.
And-
But
I need that.
also, there are
I have
grants
all
out
of my
there
folders.
under the Teen and Drug Court Program that, while it's not called the DARE program, is very similar in serving its purposes. There are programs through the community development as well. I know that community development worked very closely with Maggie during that time. So there's grants that serve the same purpose that maybe we need to be looking at.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions on personnel services? No? Moving on. Materials and supplies.
Okay, material and supplies has a savings of $865. There was the removal of wearing apparel. I'm assuming the $200 that is in revised are for civil service, but that didn't encompass
That might have been the boots, because
the
we weren't
boots,
sure.
right,
Yes.
yeah. That's the boots for officers. They also at one time had records personnel in uniforms, and they
Yes,
were taken
records
out.
and dispatch
And
were both
dispatch.
wearing uniforms, and they no longer wear
They
uniforms.
no longer wear
wear
uniforms. They were removed.
Proper office apparel.
Who's that, Anita?
I'm sorry?
Who doesn't wear uniforms?
The records clerks are dispatchers.
Oh, okay.
Repairs and maintenance and supplies, 5240. Again, these would be items for the units assigned to this particular division. Yes?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Which is Lieutenant Barrera and
And
Sergeant.
Sergeant
Bettis.
Bettis. Operating, 5290, there's a little decrease of $15, and I'm assuming that that is just standard operating for that division.
Sergeant Bettis sometimes needs, like, I don't know, what is it called? The thumb drive or the hard drive or the little, because of all of his training material that he has. So we, purchased those items for him from there.
Any questions, council? Materials and supplies? No? Okay. Purchase property services?
There is a $4,000 increase to this particular section. It's falling under equipment hire and rentals, and I'm going to leave that to...
That was the copier. Last year we didn't, for some reason, we didn't budget for it, so.
We had one of those, the black one, I don't know, was that Neville?
I think so.
Okay, that machine gave us so many problems, and we recently acquired a brand new machine, which is, I believe, a Xerox now. That machine was in repair all the time, and it caused so many problems, and we had a nickname too, so, because it was such a bad machine. But, you know, and it's a lease purchase as well, so we get the toner and all of that and repairs. They come and they fix it, and we can order toner every month for it for free because of the maintenance.
So, Ms. Diana,
ma'am.
most of our copiers seem to be on a lease and service agreement.
There was
Is there a reason why?
last year or the year before, I
It's
don't
last year.
remember, last year. And when I say last year, I mean 17 budget.
I mean fiscal year, yeah, I'm talking
Fiscal
like
year
you.
17 budget. There was a I guess a realignment and a renegotiation with Xerox. They came in, they did an analysis of all of our copiers. They did an analysis on the needs of the department, the scanning requirements that were needed for the department, and they costed it out. And y'all had asked a question yesterday about whether those proposals had gone out to local individuals. Jim Hicks actually responded. We're using Day Hill in Corpus Christi right now. The majority of their technicians live in the Alice area. They did try working with local companies, but they would never reply back with a quote. They reached out to Kyocera, Neville, and a couple of others, but through the competitive process, picked Dayhill. It saved us the most money and gave us the most value, including document management, which is something that PD needed in order to communicate with the district attorney's office. A lot of their stuff is now done by Dropbox, and administration needed as well, maintaining of records and archiving. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's a 2-year or 3-year agreement. It's on my list from yesterday to go back and pull the agreement and look at the end dates.
So these are strictly lease and service agreements, not lease purchase?
They're not purchased.
Oh, no, they're
Well,
not.
I'm not sure.
I believe some of them might be a combination of
Okay,
both.
I'm not too sure. I don't want to say one way or the other. I'm not too sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, council, on purchase property services? No? Okay, other purchase property?
There is $1,000 for communications. These are probably, again, cell phone expenses. It'd be Lieutenant Barrera, probably Sergeant Perez, and does one of the dispatchers keep one as well?
No longer, no.
No longer. Okay, we cut that one.
We cut it, yes.
And then travel expenses, there is a little bit in travel. I'm assuming because of licensing, they may have to travel out of the area to maintain anything that we currently don't offer through our training coordinator.
Actually, I believe that's his training. He needs to take a mandatory training
There you go.
every year. In order for him to be able to be a training coordinator.
Train the trainer.
Yes.
Train the trainer.
Train the trainer, yes.
Yeah, and I think this having, staffing our own training personnel, because in the past, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, we used to have to send our officers to Corpus, right, for their trainings and stuff, or even elsewhere?
There are,
Or do we still do that?
We still do some.
But not
some-
very nominal, right?
Right, we cut that practically probably in half
We
or
now
more.
train low.
No, and what we usually do, we've been doing it here a couple of years or so. Anytime Mr. Perez ahead of time puts the schedule out, mandatory training or whatever, we also put it out to our surroundings. Because since, they're smaller towns, they send their officers to get trained here at no cost. Now, just to help them out.
Oh, so we're not charging for the
No,
trainings?
and it's a long story because
What?
I say this,
Goodwill.
when I first started here, Sheriff Ramirez from Duval County, to this date, is still helping me, or I say our department, with drug forfeiture money to operate. Back then, I think my balance was about $200. And in return, all he wanted is for us to assist him with his narcotics section, which our guys are more experienced, and they're kind of training them. So to date,
It's like a trade-off,
don't
goodwill
quote me
thing.
on it, but I think to date, he's already given about 32,000, which I don't have to pay back. So it's scratch my back, I scratch yours. Yeah, you want training? Come train over here.
Where is this at, Rex? Where is he from?
Duval County.
Duval
Duval.
County, Sheriff Ramirez.
And where do those funds go?
What funds?
Like when he gave you
For
drug
those funds are to buy narcotics and to pay informants.
Gotcha.
Okay, that's the street level narcotic guys that I have. Believe me that they're doing a good job, and we have I say an excellent relationship.
So these are your CIs you're paying?
We pay informants, yes, we pay informants, and that's why when Sergeant Perez holds a class, we usually send an email, hey, you want, send some guys and get those hours, because if it's tough for us to send people to get those hours, can you imagine them in
Right.
Fremont or whatever, Five Forks, whoever wants to come, right? Sergeant Perez puts a class on and they get their hours, and you see, you have I think it's 10 days, no, 30 days, I think, that you have to submit paperwork to TICO. And if you don't do it by a certain time, those hours that you went last week, they're not gonna apply. They're very strict to the point.
They don't allow you to submit them.
My question is just a
Go
simple,
ahead.
just a simple, quick question. Doesn't need a full explanation. Just, he's already holding the class, so there's no additional time for anybody that comes from out of town. But is there an extra work after the fact that he has to do for each of these attendants, or is it just, hey, I'm already talking
No.
to the 2 Alice
No,
officers,
these-
now I'm just
these,
talking to the 10?
He just enters their credit.
That's it. Everybody that goes to a class has to sign in.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's your signing sheet. And what he does, I mean, he does his job, goes into the computer, and
He
does it
submits
all,
the
that's it.
hours for every
Okay.
officer.
And
that attended the class.
There's
that was
no-
my concern. Is there a bunch of paperwork? Is there a bunch of
No.
other stuff that would warrant?
No, and there's no cost that we're not.
Any
we're not-
additional
no,
costs
no,
that
we're
we're
not. Just,
incurring
instead of having.
and not recuperating that cost?
Instead of having 10 officers, maybe now we're gonna have 20. I mean, and he's teaching a class, so everybody gets educated with the
Good.
same thing.
But by the same token, there are other areas that offer the same
Yes.
luxury to us.
Right.
So I'll
Yes,
say it's a
exactly, yes.
goodwill
It's a good
kind
thing
of,
that goes back and forth.
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
And
We
one of
benefit
them, is RVG, the Rio Grande
Yeah,
Valley.
I'll
They sent there's a list right now on the wall,
Mm-hmm.
and they have this class is gonna be said, and practically some of them are free. So if an officer needs that class,
They come here.
they go over there and take the class.
Oh, we go over there.
Yeah, we go.
And they're
It's-
free.
It's free. So basically, sometimes we get instructors over there that are funded through the state to to come give a class here in Alice at no cost. But then we open it to everybody.
Right.
Anybody that wants to have this class can come, but of course, Alice PD comes first, and then Jim, whoever wants to attend, they can attend. And there's no extra cost. The only thing, like I said, once you sign in, that form is sent to TICO, and then at a later date, you can go into your computer and check and see how many hours you've taken and whatever.
So how many how far away come for our training?
I know Cheryl Ramirez, I know Jim Wills has, Fremont, San Diego has come. The other, I don't know, a few months ago, we had people from DPS, because it was a Spanish class that was given by somebody that came over here on a COG for free, right? So you send out, and these are classes that maybe somebody needs for a certification, and they show up. There was I can't tell you how many cities were here, but all that is compiled through an email, and those that want to attend.
Do they get a lunch hour?
Yes, they do.
So they go out and eat at our restaurants?
Yes, they do.
Sales tax
Yes,
revenue?
they do.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay. Any other questions, council? No? Okay, moving on to the next.
What makes up this technical service?
Technical, always the
Search
pleasure.
6500.
Because you never know what it is.
It is our software, the PTS software that is used. You'll see PTS software go throughout each division in the PD, which is admin, support, CID. Whoever uses the PTS software will pay a portion of that through their technical fund. We also have to pay an annual fee to TCOL, and also the TCLEDS, which is also part of the TCOL in order for Sergeant Bettis to be able to submit all of those hours, and that's what comes out of there.
Okay, no other questions, council? Good, moving on to CID.
CID is 43613. There is 1 lieutenant, 5 sergeants, 1 police officer. Of those 7, all 7 are civil service. In this division, there is 1 non-civil service employee. It's the evidence and crime scene specialist. Trying to remember. Okay, so your evidence and crime scene specialist would have been subject to the reduction in pay. All the other officers, the other 7, all fall under the collective bargaining agreement.
You do see a difference because there was some shuffling around between some of them moving from CID to patrol.
Right. We actually had Lieutenant Barrera for a while in charge of CID, so that there might be a difference there.
And wasn't there Elizondo
And then
too?
Daniel Elizondo was CID but moved back to patrol. So he was CID for a little while, moved back to patrol. So, and then
Is there another
we
one?
moved Isaac, I believe. I don't know if Isaac's been there since last year or
He
that
was.
just happened.
No, he was there last year.
CID, so there was some type of, that kind of, between departments, I guess, a fund change, or I don't know what you want to
It's just
call it,
department
but a
change.
department change, yeah.
But the increase that you will see from the
Yeah.
annual salary
Yeah.
and requested is those incentive, those
the incentives
stipends.
again.
Right.
Mhm.
8 total employees in this one?
Lieutenant,
7 and 1.
no, it's right.
And,
Yes.
yeah.
8.
8, and just to back up a little bit, as part of the contract, one of the things that was given up was some promotional ranks that were not at that time filled. And I don't remember if any of those belonged to CID. Were the majority of those in patrol and traffic?
I think there might have been one for Sandy.
Maybe one
I-
additional
yes,
sergeant in
sergeant
CID?
was
Okay.
removed, yeah.
But it wasn't funded last year, it's not funded this year, so a total of 7 civil service, 1 non-civil service.
So we should have a 4 there and then another sergeant that has 1 at 0, the same way you did the last page? Or do we have 5
I'm sorry,
active?
say that again.
So under sergeant, you said there was 1 unfunded, a total of 7.
And that's
Should
what, I need to go back and check, because I don't remember exactly where that sergeant was before.
believe
I want
when
to say,
De Leon retired and negotiations were held again, and they gave up that position.
they gave it up.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
so it wouldn't be listed in
Okay,
in
so
here.
they gave it up completely, we're just not unfunding.
No, they didn't give it up
Well-
completely.
Okay.
They gave it up for the term of the contract,
Yes.
which will expire next year.
That's correct. Okay. Any questions, council? We have overtime of 42,000.
Yes, and that overtime is probably very minimal for the evidence tech and maybe the majority for the other officers.
When they're on call.
When
or
they're on call.
Depending if there's a major case that they're working.
And CID does encompass criminal investigations, evidence, and narcotics as well?
Yes, we utilize, anytime that help is needed, we utilize them. And again, it's just hard to pinpoint what's gonna happen today, tomorrow, or next week. We still don't know, right? So, I know, right now, there's only 1, 2, 3, only 3 CID officers back there. And my intent is to get some from patrol to relieve some help over there. The thing is that right now, we'll get to it, but we're short on patrol. So I can't get from here because I'm gonna be worse off over here. So until we get back to par, then I can move people over there. That's my intent. So, the CID has been doing an excellent job. Lieutenant Jaramillo is in charge of CID, and very experienced. The 2 individuals, again, besides being one there, being the experience also. I think Isaac Salinas came in there and you see him working, and they're getting better. He's there already. We just moved Sergeant Chavez from patrol. He wanted to transfer over to CID, and you can see that he's already going. You know, and a lot of this is you gotta want to learn. And now in a police department, again, you have your dispatcher, let's say one department there, you have patrol, one department there, and you have CID. So you kind of have like 4 in 1, right? So you really have to like what you're doing and try not to get burned out, because believe me, if you go over there thinking that today I'm gonna take it easy, well, guess what? Tomorrow's gonna bring more work, because it's just cases coming in.
Yeah.
You know? So you just have to manage it correctly, and I think that the individuals that are back there are doing a good job.
And I know this is an operational question, but how are we doing in solving our criminal cases? Do you have any data just off the top of your head?
I know that, honestly, I think we're doing well. I can give you numbers. I know that when there's a crime, for example, aggravated assault or whatever, these individuals just recently, 2 weeks ago, they got a warrant on the guy and placed him under arrest. I have no gripes as to what they're and how they're doing it. I think I can give you numbers though.
So we're seeing a decrease, Chief?
Well,
Is it-
the crime is there because
Right,
of.
in solving, are we
Right,
seeing
in
in our
solving,
caseload?
in solving these cases, it's there. Now, and again, I think Anita just mentioned, is we see it because of the Dropbox.
Yes,
You know,
if I may,
they,
yes.
they get a case and then they get Dropbox into it.
Crystal and I, Crystal, which is our evidence tech, criminal, she does crime scene, and she's been assisting us since we've been.
Heard good things about it.
Yes, we've been very shorthanded because we lost our records clerk. She and I are working with the Dropbox, sending cases, which actually, that's really awesome. It saves us a lot on paper and discs and so many, technologies. Awesome. So anyway, we've been sending so many cases, it's kind of like, I think they actually probably want us to slow down. And the investigators in the back as well, even though they've gone from probably like 6 to 3, they're constantly working, and every day it's nonstop. Every day we have reports. Every day it's, like I said, it's nonstop. So for everybody involved, from records to, it's constant. But now that we don't have to make all of the copies and we're not wasting time making copies, we can with a click of a button, we're doing a lot of scanning and PDFing and sending on a daily basis that I don't think they know what to do over there. And this is, so we are learning to work.
And again,
with less.
she mentioned Crystal. Crystal is our tech. She's in charge of any high crime, whatever that needs evidence picked up or photographed.
Yes.
She's called upon. And not only that, with new laws coming into play, now they want the call that came in that day. She needs to go in there and look for it, make copies
Right.
of all the radio transmission, puts a CD with that case. I mean, she's
Right.
taking on a task that another person was doing, but she left. And again,
Right.
I put it where it is. She's doing a good job.
She is.
And she, like you said, you heard good things about her. You know what? I've heard good things from the DA's office, where I like to hear constructive criticism, to where if someone can do better, maybe talk to these individuals and give him or her a better idea to get better, either at the stand or report writing, whatever the issue is.
There's always room
Yes.
for learning.
Absolutely. Any other questions, council? No? Moving on to the next.
Material and supplies, the biggest reduction is going to be to wearing apparel. That is comprised of the contract negotiations and the temporary hold on the clothing and cleaning allowances that were part of the contract. Again, that provision will expire September of next year, and the safety boots as well.
Any other questions?
I have a question, Rex.
Yes.
Your uniforms, we went through this yesterday. Uniforms, do you send them out like heck?
No,
No.
we.
They don't
the-
buy patrol uniforms
No.
from here. This was just clothing allowance.
Okay.
Patrol is, I'm sorry, I don't mean to
No,
interrupt.
no.
Patrol is the only one that is funded to buy the uniforms like the one that
Oh,
Lieutenant
mhm.
Sertuche wears. And he buys for all of them and they launder them themselves. I know at a time, through the contract, they were
Right.
allowed
There were two provisions that were given up in the last contract negotiations. The individuals who are plainclothes officers were receiving $550 a year. And that was for them to be able to buy clothing for court, clothing for every day, and clothing was appropriate for
And that
their
was for whom,
position.
Diane?
For the
For
detectives
the
or-
detectives.
Right, the non-uniformed
non-uniformed.
officers.
Okay.
The individuals that are uniformed, which is your patrol and traffic individuals, and they wear uniforms like Lieutenant Sartucci, were receiving a cleaning allowance. They were receiving $275 a year to be able to clean their uniforms appropriately.
A year?
Yes, ma'am. Both of those provisions were temporarily put on hold with the contract that we negotiated last year.
So then this wearing apparel is shirts? or
I think it
polos?
was maybe
pants.
just in case something, in case y'all needed to purchase.
But they also, through there, they can purchase gear if they need it. Duty belts or stuff like that. We've purchased.
Okay, and like Lewis, he's not wearing a uniform, so what happens there?
It's optional. I think last month you saw him in a uniform.
Mhm.
So it's optional for him. Of course, for me too. You know, when I put a uniform on, everybody, you know, what's going on today? No, what do you need? Well, you have a uniform on. Well, you know, it's just optional. But for Mr. Barrera, you know, he can wear it tomorrow. We can wear it.
But does he get a, no?
No.
No.
And we take it to the cleaners ourselves. You know, the officers, you know,
They wash it themselves.
the officer's first appearance
Mhm.
leaves the example.
Mhm.
Okay,
That's
that's the way I was brought up. So I try to tell these individuals, shiny shoes because your boots.
Mhm.
Because if you go to a call and they see that you're up to par there, they're gonna now if you see a torn pant and stuff like that, they're gonna say, what is this? You know what I mean? And I'm very I look at that, and if I see that an officer, hey, can you go Chinese shoes or maybe iron, you know, and because the first appearance, man, it is.
So like Hector back there, he gets $275.
He was
He
receiving.
was.
They don't receive it anymore until it was one of the
I'm gonna
things
say
that they
that's only
gave up.
$22 a month.
Yeah.
He does it on his own. I think Hector irons his own pants. I think. Right, Hector?
Cleaners does it for
I
us.
think he does it. Okay. So no, we do. We ourselves send it to the cleaners.
That's one of my points yesterday.
So, like, if you look sharp, people gonna see that,
That's right.
and that's my saying. If you look sharp, people gonna they see that.
They respect that.
And they respect that, and I there's times that maybe the officer, got up too late, and when if I see him, hey guys, go shine, go iron your shirt, it's, hey, we're human like anybody else, right? And, but, no, Lieutenant Barrera.
Is that why Lieutenant Barrera's not wearing his?
Well, I
He
can't
got up
answer
late.
that. No, what happened is, he didn't call me, and we were in the same color.
Just kidding.
Get the memo.
Yeah.
Lieutenant. I'm just kidding, Lieutenant.
I told him to go change, but he didn't.
Man of many hats. All right, any other questions, council? Operating supplies on this one is,
That is gloves and anything that is needed for like.
It's,
Gosh, do y'all see this on coding? Like we have wearing apparel that has like stuff that they need, and then we put gloves over
Well,
here. God, I
The
just
gloves that they're talking
It's
about are
just like
actually
the ones-
personal
It's
protection
like the
gloves,
latex gloves
latex
for when they go
gloves
out on the
when they're-
scene or if
Oh,
they need.
gotcha,
disposable.
gotcha,
Yes,
gotcha.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. I
Okay.
should have been clear.
5290 also includes food and expenses for the K-9.
Yes, we
Okay.
have
And that'll be a separate line item
yes.
Okay.
next year.
next year for fiscal year 18.
All right. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question. This one we have 6 or 7 units in the field. I'm shooting back to fuel just to get a cost analysis across the board. We have 6 or 7 units in the field. We're doing about 1,200. So what's that, about 1,500, 1,700 a unit, or is it flux a lot between the units?
So it flexes.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if you just kind of worked an average or how you kind of came to that number, or is it seems to be pretty static across the board, but.
No, we you know, I guess once you fill up and you're running low, that's when you eat this, there's no account.
And then, do we have our own fuel cells, or do we
Fuel
bulk,
cards.
No, at the service
bulk
center.
purchase, or do we have a?
At the service center, they have a fuel pump, and each unit and each officer has a code.
A code and a
Okay.
key.
So when you put your code and you put your key, it's gonna, at the end of the month, Becky, if I stand correctly.
So, yeah.
She
yes,
sends the fuel
sir,
report.
sends us an
report.
outprint,
report.
a
It's like
printout.
a fuel
Fuel
report.
analysis.
Hey, this is what this unit, this
Right.
officer, you know.
It gives them what's hitting their department as far as fuel. It gives them an average MPGs. The department heads are responsible for reviewing that, determining if there's any fluctuation or any inaccuracies, reporting those back to Becky so she can look into it. Each unit that the city has is assigned a key. That key is for that unit only.
Right.
And each person who needs an access code needs to get permission from the department head. That is transferred to HR, which we determine is accurate or not for the position. And then the code is issued to that individual person. As they are coming on, they're being requested. As they are terminating or leaving employment, those codes are being canceled out.
So the key isn't associated to the individual, the key is associated to
To
the
the
unit.
unit.
And any individual can process it and it pulls it back together at the end.
Right, like patrol units, for example. It's been a rule ever since I started, is you use your unit, before you exit, you fill it up for the next person. Okay, so it might be 8 gallons, 5 gallons, it doesn't depend, right? But once you put your key and your code, or vice versa, code then your key, it's gonna indicate to City Hall, well, Rex just put gas of 5
Which
gallons.
officers use it?
Mhm.
And in this unit. So, you know, that's how they keep track. And at the end of the month, they tally, and then they send us a sheet.
And are we under contract with like,
The, Vanessa, if you
Well,
want.
I was gonna,
Fuel
they
contract.
do call, I don't know if they're under.
They're
I
not
don't-
under contract. What they do,
They
to my
call every
understanding,
time and
is
get
they
their
call the
quotes.
3 bigger distributors of
Mhm.
both diesel and unleaded fuel every time they need to fill the tanks. And based on that quote, they get 3 every single time. Is where we determine we're going to buy for that time period. One of the things that we are looking at is a fuel management or fleet management system. A lot of cities have moved to instead of the city operating and owning the permits and everything for the tanks. There are vendors who will allow cities to utilize, HEB,
Fleet
Exxon,
cards.
others with fleet cards. We met with the gentleman a couple months back, maybe 3 or 4 months back. He's on my list to continue those discussions with.
Rite Express, there's like 4 of them that actually
There,
work in
yeah.
town.
And you can actually track their usage, and also you can put a maximum amount that they can spend on their
Mhm.
fuel. So those are pretty cool.
Okay. Any other questions, council, on materials and supplies? No? Okay, we move on to the next, purchase property services.
Again, this is going to be communications. I'm assuming that because this department has so many detectives, that probably each one of them has a phone.
Yes.
And the travel is going to be as well in the event that there's specialized training or classes that they need to go to out of the area.
Yes.
Any questions, council? No?
Rex, do you take your truck home?
Yes, I do, ma'am.
And what about Lewis?
He does too.
También.
I think, when Miss Renee was here as acting,
Mhm.
she, all the detectives, I think Luis is about 1.5 miles down west.
Mhm.
I'm about, from the reservoir over there is about 4 miles to my house. And I think Ricky Sines lives in Bimbo.
Mhm.
And, Salinas lives in, Agua Dulce.
Mhm.
And, Charles lives in Bimbo.
So all 5 of y'all have
We
vehicles?
have vehicles. And in the vehicles is all the equipment needed, because these guys at the spur of the moment can
If they're
get called
called.
and they have to roll. And everything is in the car as far as vest, weapons, you
Mhm.
call it, they have it, you know, and that's one of the reasons that I allow, and it's been practiced, but I allow it, is for them, because, I mean, to come pick up your car and go with, you know, lots of time.
That's a waste of time.
But believe me, you know, there's go and come, you know, there.
Okay.
Going back to communications, does that include what's in the vehicle as well as what's on the person, on the officer?
Yes, it includes everything. I believe they have, I think they still have laptops. Do they still?
I think they have like the little internet, right?
No, I'm asking the CID units. I haven't been in a CID unit in so long.
They don't have laptops.
But I know that they carry
Radio.
like their
and-
radios and their personal.
And they have a portable radio, they have a police radio that's attached to the vehicle, and of course a cell phone.
Well, no, but I think,
Do you have that,
well,
Paul?
no, I know on the phone bill, it's individual, but I think Patrol and Traffic has, internet.
So they have like a,
I think but it's patrol and traffic, not CID.
Not CID.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. they-
okay.
Have we ever entertained a non-idling policy?
What's,
Yes.
That's when,
But it's easier to get in a unit that's already on to take
No,
off.
I'm
Oh, you
not
have
talking
it
about
done? Oh.
certain,
Oh.
like, but certain, like CID, you know, they're gonna go investigate, right? Or like certain departments, since y'all have a bunch of cars, I know that the other department, that wouldn't be right for them to get in a car that's off. But
Right.
like, you know, since this department has so many vehicles,
I know that I know that Lieutenant Satucci has mentioned it to the individuals that, you know, turn off your car, you know. We also, you need to look at, you know, if you leave a vehicle out in the sun, then you come back and your phone's all messed up because of the heat, right? We have a computer that's on a laptop, you know, and those are little things that we need to look at because heat might damage your computer.
Right.
You know, again, if you're gonna be parked for 2 hours, I mean, you know, try
Yeah.
to, but it's something that we can address with the officers and, you know, park it in the shade if you can, you know, and turn it off. Absolutely. we can
and not all, you know, not all of them, but like some of them that we could. I don't know, because sometimes you cut little things like that and it adds up, you know, just in fuel cost. Yes. Bigger companies, it's a mandatory non-idling policy.
Yeah, but they also don't have ACs at all. So they're getting in the
Neither
vehicle
does
the
the
same,
post
the same
office, I
temperature
think.
whether it's cold or
Well,
hot.
We'd
sometimes
actually
we
be-
get spoiled because we go into hot cars
I
all
was
the
gonna say,
time.
you'd actually be surprised how many of our other vehicles do not have AC. Our meter readers don't have AC, and most of, a lot of our public utilities people don't have AC either. They have the old-fashioned roll-down windows.
The 230 ACs. You roll down 2 windows and go about
That's
30
right.
miles per hour.
That's right.
All right, technical service.
Technical service for CAD is the PTS, the maintenance agreement for that. And they also have their case management, which is a different software for them to be able to do all of the major cases with. They also have Leads Online, which helps them with like pawn shop. They check to see if things have been pawned through there. We have hold on, the 2X software for the computers, PCS, like for their cameras for mobile video. The Callyo, that's like a mobile cell phone.
It's a cell phone that narcotic uses. For example, we have an informant. Okay, you want to get into somebody or someone. That phone is activated, and it's actually double trouble.
Yeah.
We're actually hearing what's going on. Okay, and from there we that's how we get our intel.
Yeah.
People wonder how we do it.
Don't
And
tell
I'll stop
them.
there.
Don't tell them, okay? This is
That's
why
a-
we
that's-
stop.
Okay, we have Warrant Now.
No, but there's other ways, believe me. You know, that's why I think Ms. Moran, mentioned it at the beginning, informants. If it weren't for informants,
That's right.
we would be
Right.
at a still
That's right.
position,
That's
right?
yes.
So with informants, that's why we pay individuals, they get paid, some get worked out to get what we want.
Yeah.
It's the business.
Yes. We have Warrant Now. We're able to get warrants signed now, like a digital signature, you know, so we don't have to actually go knocking on the judge's door in the middle of the night. We pay for Dropbox to be able to send the cases to the proper courts. We pay for Accurant. That's another software that CID uses to be able to gather information. We also pay for the license plate reader out of there. And we pay for Sustain, which is a cell phone data extraction. So we pay CID, we pay a lot of it for all these tools that they need to be able to do their job and gather the information for all of the investigations.
What falls under that, a medical evaluation services?
That is actually
I think that's the
the
canine.
sexual assault.
Oh, and the sexual assault, yes.
Say again?
Sexual assault.
The kit.
The kit.
The kit.
That we send
Yes. We pay a portion of that.
the individual, any victims, we send them over to Driscoll
Children's Hospital.
or here, and eventually we get charged. I think it's $450.
We pay
if I'm not mistaken.
$450, and again, that is one of those that we don't know. We hope, yeah, it fluctuates. And we have paid for the other, we've had a previous canine, unfortunately, he passed away. But we paid that over there too. We're used to.
Any other questions, council? Professional, technical? Any other questions on CID? No? Okay. Moving on to patrol and traffic.
Patrol and traffic is going to be probably the largest division of APD. These are your uniformed officers that are most visible in the neighborhoods. All of these individuals are covered under the collective bargaining agreement. And if you give me a minute, I want to recheck these numbers. And 20 officers, okay.
But that was one that we might.
So that, of the You'll notice 20 officers. We were proposing an additional officer, and it was one of the things that we discussed on Saturday, so that's going to drop to 19, and that base salary is going to come out of that amount. And Vanessa, do you remember offhand how much it was?
It's on the cuts spreadsheet.
It would be, but the amount I had was the salary plus benefits.
That's fine, that way we can just,
$49,001.
And but that's gonna come off of the
that's
147.
gonna come out of the 147, yes, sir.
Say that again, 4901?
$49, $49,000.
4900.
Oh, oh.
Now, does that increase any overtime or anything like that? Is there an adjustment in that?
Well, we were hoping that some of the offices are coming back and
He has vacancies right
Yes,
now.
we're hoping they will
through,
get filled, too.
Promotion and through voluntary separation. We have not had an opportunity to formally test for the entry-level positions because we are waiting for a sufficient number of applicants to be able to administer the entry-level test. Those testing materials and that process comes out of the civil service budget, which we'll review at a later date. But there are some considerations to be taken into account. You know, if we have, I believe we're 4.
I think, if I stand correctly, I think it's 6.
No, sir.
Okay, 5.
It's your wishful thinking.
well, I think he means he has so many vacancies, but then he has some out.
I think Lieutenant Sertuche can answer the question.
No.
I don't think it's the same
Lieutenant.
number.
We want you to answer.
How many patrol officer vacancies are we?
Please answer.
Yeah.
One.
Before
Get up
five,
late, so-
you know, when your bottom portion is full, you can move people around. But right now, it's not full. I know I'll be hurting Lieutenant Sertuche, who in my opinion, again, an excellent supervisor. He's got like Ms. Diane said, has the brunt of the department, and we'll respect it. And you know, without him, honestly, I think I would be hurt, because he, you know, everything funnels through him, funnels through me, through him. So and that's where we're at right now.
So, going back to the entry-level testing, because of the number of vacancies and we know we'll have to fill them, the tests that we receive from the testing company can be administered one time. So if they send us 25 tests, it doesn't make sense to test 3 officers and you're losing 22 exams. So we're waiting, and we have some ideas in place. They've been going out and recruiting. We have received some applications, and as soon as we have a sufficient test pool, then we will administer the entry-level exam to begin that process of bringing in the entry-level officers that they are vacant.
Okay.
And again, that count was how many?
Oh, 4. Well, I want 6, but she says 4. She's the boss.
Any questions on that, council? Personnel services, no? Okay, moving on to materials and supplies.
Okay, you're going to see the reduction again in 5220 because of the cleaning allowances and the boots that were negotiated to come out of the contract for the year. I'll let them speak to the fuel and repair, maintenance, and supplies because you all have a pretty big fleet when it comes to patrol and traffic.
I hope that anytime you have monies, of course, we can purchase. When I came in, I think I mentioned it earlier, our drug forfeiture fund was depleted. I mean, I can't even tell you, I probably couldn't buy a pack of gum with it. As now, through sources that we have, I was able to land a case here, and out of that case, we got 206,000. And with that monies, we started buying vehicles to replace those that are old. Now, like I explained earlier, Lieutenant Sartucci and I, we're driving a Tahoe, and I'm gonna answer a question here that's been asked. You know, when the Tahoes were silver, so we needed black and white. So what I did is went to local places, plus NACO and Corpus, and NACO outflew these gentlemen here, or the companies here, by like $700. So we painted those silver Tahoes black and whites. We lit them up with lights, and now they were about 25,000 miles, maybe. I think the one I was driving is now in the patrol fleet. I've purchased for CID so far is 2 Chargers and one Ford and a Tahoe, and we just picked up one today, which is we're waiting for the lights to get installed, and we're gonna add another and take out another Ford Crown Vic that we have. Those are our older units. With that, when you do that, all you're gonna do is probably save in maintenance too, because hopefully they're driven and again kept operational. So the only thing that the servicer is gonna do hopefully just change the oil at 5 or whatever mileage it is. And I hope I can save there. I want to buy 2 more units. That way we can get away from the Crown Victorias, which is our older, probably 180,000 miles. You know, and you can probably hear them coming down 281. But they've dashed it because of guess maintenance. You know, we keep them up. I mean, maintenance is real good. Victor and them guys send you, hey, this unit needs to get oil change, and we send it over there. And if you keep up a maintenance on a vehicle, it's gonna last you. So I'm hoping that I still got some monies coming in from the D's office, and with that monies, I'll purchase another vehicle until we're up to par. And that's what my intentions are.
And those purchases are made through the buy board, correct? We have bid locally, but it's hard to beat the buy board, correct?
And I think I've been asked, and you know, if I could spend the money here, by all means, you know, who wouldn't? But when the price is, for example, one of the units was $10,000, how can I?
The differential, you mean?
Yeah, different.
Yeah.
How can I, you know?
It's outfitted for less than it is base.
You know, if Ford here or Chrysler here can get in the buy board system, which I don't know what it pertains to. I don't know if they have to do I don't know how they get into
Chevrolet's already
that.
in it. I
Right.
asked. Chevrolet's in it. The governmental program.
It is?
I asked.
Oh, they are, but not locally though.
Yes, sir. I asked Roger
Caldwell's
Moore.
is the closest one.
I asked Roger Moore. He said yes.
Maybe if you have an in with Mr. Moore,
Because they
I wanna
presented a
sit
bid.
down,
He said
I wanna
yes.
sit down and I can explain. I won't explain it here. But the thing is that we've done it where we call and like Lieutenant Satoshi, he's in charge of that. He can make a phone call and he knows exactly buy board. I think Ramos gave us a list of companies that are in that and Alice is not in there. So I don't know, that the nearest one, like Lieutenant says, is Caldwell. And probably everybody from Kingsville to Ralston to Corpus goes over.
Pretty much the whole state of Texas goes to Caldwell.
Really?
And we just got some new lists from buy board, and we'll check it again.
It's
But
what he has.
that's constantly
Changing.
changing, and they may have been added.
They may have just
recently, and
entered.
We don't have an updated list. I was trying to get on by board right now to see, because they do have a product list.
State contracts are usually 2-year contracts.
So that's how we've been doing it, but again, if there's a difference between 1,000 or 2, by all means, we purchase them here.
Right.
You know, 3, I don't.
Because that's what we preach. If you have to pay a little bit more to shop local, keep your tax dollars here.
Yes, and I'm with you.
that's-
And again, all this purchasing is doing it from the drug forfeiture fund, which I can use it for equipment, units, flashlights, whatever the officers need, including education. Okay, some of the times there's not money in our budget. You know, if it's a course that individual that Sergeant Pettis is not too familiar with, let's say, we go to-
Specialized
because
training.
that individual can come back over here and just teach our guys.
And again, something like this, equipment, vehicles, again, working with other governmental entities, whether it's Duval County, Brooks, Jim Wells, working together and saying, hey, how many vehicles do you need? How many do you need? And then, you know, going through a inter-cooperative way maybe can also reduce the cost.
I think I was asked by the boss, is that
He's the only one who calls me
I
that.
think Be Good, Bueno, Ms. Bueno, mentioned that she asked to,
Be good.
she asked for a vehicle because she was going back and
Yes.
forth. So we're in that phase right now to where our division is gonna keep 2, 3 for spares in case one needs to get maintenance, that we have a vehicle to move. And any vehicle that is still operable is gonna get given to, so they can use it. We just change it off from PD status to whatever status
Admin.
gonna get that vehicle.
That's nice. Thank you, Rex.
Just to go back to the buy board question, I did do a search on their vendor list. Caldwell is the only one. That does not mean Chevrolet might be part of another co-op that's state run.
It's called Buy Board.
Buy board is the one that we've just recently started kind of utilizing. Now, some of the other departments have been using it, but we're kind of
Promoting
trying
it.
to push it a little more. And
Just
it's
because
actually
we
like
get
a-
you
Huge
can get
differences.
Yeah.
money
And
back.
it was actually
Okay.
started as a school, for the school districts, so.
Right.
Some of the, I know yesterday we were talking about some of the chemicals and things like that for water production, wastewater. You probably won't see those on there because school districts really don't deal with that kind of
Right.
chemical. Now, for the natatorium, they would be able to because there are some swimming pools with the IDs, so that might help save us money. But for buy board, Caldwell is on there.
But not only do we, with the buy board, do we not only get great pricing, but we get like purchase rewards, right?
Yes.
You get a
Yes,
small
she said
portion
that
back,
she
so
used towards other-
there's huge benefits all the way around for the buy board.
And we actually get that in our emails.
Mhm.
You'll see that purchase, you'll see what's being posted on there, what they have available.
Another benefit to my experience is I try so hard to get the local businesses.
Involved.
Their warranties are like 5-year, 100,000-mile warranties, where the local dealerships could only do 3-year, 36,000.
can't do it.
They couldn't compete. It's powered by numbers. I mean, it's just all the cities combining. So to answer your question.
But that goes back to what I'm saying,
Yes.
intergovernmental cooperation, which
To
is
have
in
bigger
numbers,
numbers.
then maybe your locals have a
Can do
better
it, yeah.
opportunity to offer you better
Because that's why
rates.
everybody's going to that one, because everybody is going to that one. so
I
you're
have no
making more
doubt
money.
that if a business of that sort gets into that buy board stuff, I guarantee that corporates, they would rather travel 30 miles over here to buy their
All the way to
vehicles.
Austin.
Right.
And I asked Lieutenant Santucci, man, is this place is a big city? You know, it's just as small as our Dulce.
It's a local town.
What's it called? Caldwell?
Caldwell, it's near College Station.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, I mean,
Because I just asked him for a government program. I said, why can't we buy our vehicles from you? Or why aren't you offering a government program? He says, we do. So I wasn't specific as buy board or whatever.
They're probably
you know,
part of the fleet program, the government fleet program,
Where they
There
get
are
discounts.
different
where they get
co-ops.
They
discounts,
get
yeah.
discounts
Yeah.
through corporations
that we can purchase
Fleet
it.
program, government fleet.
So this would be something different.
Right.
And they do have information on the buy board. I mean, I know we're kind of getting a little off topic, but there is information on the buy board website for them if they want to join that co-op.
Okay.
Or for vendors.
Actually, I think we had that conversation, right, Chief, about some of the local dealerships here, maybe going to visit with them and say, and.
Yeah, we gave that
you know.
information to Ford.
You gave the information
Yes.
before?
Yes.
We met with the
Brian
individual there,
Okay.
and we also met with
Mark.
Mark, and I think to answer, did we meet with Mark, what's his name?
Alanis.
Alanis?
Yes,
Mm,
Mark and
Dodge.
Brian.
We did
Okay,
meet with
so-
them, and you know, they're probably giving that discount that Mr. Ramos says,
Yeah.
1,000 down,
Right.
you know, but, I mean,
But we didn't meet with Chevrolet.
I'll get with you on that now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to be fair.
And in the last purchase, we actually did partner, didn't we partner up with one recently with the county for one of your,
Yes, prior to
So we are-
Sheriff Bueno being the sheriff in January, it was Louis in charge for a few months, and during that 6 months that he was in charge, I know Louis brought, you know, we were talking, you know what, Chief, we can go half and half on a Tahoe for Hastings, our interdiction guy. I said, yeah, that's fine. So they came through with that, and we paid half and they paid half, and now Hastings is driving a new Tahoe, and his unit, which the service center had done, I think put a motor or worked on the motor, is now Legis, which is the K9 unit. His unit went down, so now he picked up Hastings.
And that's good, Chief. I commend you for trying to continue to work in a intercooperative
And I'm
with all the other governmental entities.
and I'm trying very hard.
I know.
Leave it at that.
Okay, any other questions on materials and supplies? Nothing on, we're on property services, right?
Purchase property.
That was fuel,
Mhm.
repair, maintenance, forever.
You probably covered 5420 as well, which is the other side of the equation.
That's what.
So there would be probably equipment hires and rentals, 5430. Anita's $1,000. It looks like pretty steadily. I'm not sure what it's for.
For the equipment hire, the CID has,
Patrol. We're in patrol.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're in patrol.
I'm so sorry, wrong division. Lost. It is a copy machine. Either way, they have a copy machine too. It's the same thing, they have their own little copy machine that they make their copies and they print out their timesheets or they print out whatever they need.
Okay. No
Um,
questions? Okay, on to the next, other purchase property.
Okay, so communications is probably going to be a big one because most of the supervisors, which will be your sergeants, carry phones, correct? No?
No, this is going to be for.
We're in patrol.
For the laptop.
Yes, we're in
Yes,
patrol.
Sorry, we're in patrol.
We all switched.
No, where I got lost there.
Sorry, we're in
Same.
patrol. These are going to be the laptops that are in the patrol units.
Yes.
So,
So laptops, this doesn't include radios, or does it in this one? No, okay.
Strictly laptops.
Yes, the officers are.
The purchase of them? Or-
Well,
No,
no.
internet
Data.
connection.
Internet
connection.
Connections.
The officers doesn't have, well, at times sometimes they have to when the server is not working properly. But for the most part it does. It is, but they have computers in their units, so they answer a call, they can go a little ways, park
Do
and
their
and
report.
do
Do their
their
reports,
report.
right. Instead of keeping them in the building, they can work out of their cars.
So no cell phones, they don't have cell phones?
No.
Okay.
which is, sometimes you may hear, because I was one of those, why are they parked across the street from me all the time? And that's one of the reasons, because they have a little downtime, they're actually catching up on the
You can
recording.
actually tell when they're doing that.
I'll tell a few of them, I have Wi-Fi, you can go park in front of my place.
Aw.
And it's true, it's
Use my
wherever you
Wi-Fi.
get a good connection,
we'll-
you'll see.
But it's gotta be a
Fair.
secure connection.
Yeah, a secure connection.
That's not a secure connection.
It's not, you already checked. It's not secure. Because I told him I don't care, go
We
park.
have net motion and 2X that provide a secure connection.
Gotcha. Very
Would-
good.
That's operation. I'll get to that one later. Just a question about G-Tech again. So, no, I mean, it'd be an option to maybe put them on the roaming Wi-Fi with G-Tech if it's gonna go across the whole thing. And that's gonna be an intranet, so that'd be something to get with Jim about. That might save us a little bit of money as well.
Should we, hold on, I might have that note somewhere.
Yes, because I don't know all that internet stuff. I don't know the whole.
Well,
It got kickstarted and never.
yeah, but we can do it,
What did you say
secured
about, what's it
intranet.
called?
Not for
Intro.
CJIS requirements.
First, yeah, we follow CJIS requirements, and we have, because of all of the.
Oh, it wouldn't fall, it wouldn't be able to?
okay.
I just didn't know if it would be even an option.
Yeah.
Because I know that they can offer up through that same system intranet, or, you know, our internet, our
It probably
intranet,
is,
sorry,
as long as it
that
meets
is just you.
Right, maybe if they do, I don't think they do,
I don't think.
but I mean, because if they run a driver's license, all of that information,
Ah.
they can't.
Okay, makes sense, okay.
Now I have my answer on the copiers. I should have looked earlier. Jim is actually out of the office, but the savings on the copiers was $10,000 annually. And on the G-Tech question that you're asking about, we're anticipating savings of $20,000 annually throughout the city. And we're planning implementation for late September 2017. And that's to get the internet and phone lines up by wireless, to discontinue the expensive landline connections, and freeing up tower space, and hopefully using more cloud services.
Very good. Thank you, Jim.
Okay.
No other questions on other purchase property, council? Moving on to professional and technical service.
The big one is going to be technical, and I'm sure that Anita's got it all outlined.
Yes, again, we will be paying the PTS maintenance out of there. Also PTS mobile client, which is for the units. The NetMotion subscription, those are for the unit computers. Our Mentalix Live Scan, which is our fingerprint machine. What else are there? Again, PCS cameras for the mobile video. Our RASTRAC, which is our GPS. We pay for the Brazos technology, which is like for the ticket writers. And we also pay a portion of the Celex license plate reader out of there. So again, those are all tools that they use to be able to operate.
Yours is pretty technical. I think
Technical,
it's
technical for
technical is
technical.
actually technical for y'all.
We got it right on one.
Right? Yes. Okay, any questions, council?
So it looks like the final differential on that, less the 49,001, is actually an increase of 105,418. Is that what y'all have on your side?
Do y'all have the increase, do y'all have the,
Because we're gonna get an updated final number.
Yes, you're going to get an
Yes.
updated, hopefully by the 7th, we'll have a better understanding of where we are.
if you subtract out the $49,001.
105,418.
Decrease or increase? Decrease.
Well, it went from 54 to 105.
40,000.
Yeah, 'cause that's
49,000.
Was it 49,001?
49,001.
One something, right? Okay.
That's pretty much exactly what the increase in salary request was. 98.
Okay. Council, any other questions on patrol and traffic?
586.
Y'all good, council? Yes? Okay, moving on to Humane, 437.
This will be the last division that is under the police department, Humane. There are 2 Humane officers. There is one unfunded position that through attrition last year has remained unfunded for this year.
Maybe let him know, Jim.
and this division is under Lieutenant Barrera. You will see under personnel services, the reduction for health insurance, and because there was a reduction in overtime, or a little proposed reduction in overtime, a little reduction to the retirement, because that is taken into account. And then the workers' compensation increase that we had discussed about how it went evenly across the board. There are really no changes to personnel or to wages in that division.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Why was this moved from where to PD from community development?
It's always been under PD. As long as I've been here since 2005 or 6, it's been under PD. Is that correct?
As long as I've been with the city, it's been under PD. And I've been here 20-some years.
Year 25.
I'm just joking.
I don't remember.
Have we ever considered sourcing this out to either the Humane Society or one of the local organizations?
We're not,
Has that ever been?
Because, well,
Lieutenant Barrera?
I would assume.
I don't think it's been considered, but
I would
it
assume
certainly
because of
would
our
be something that would,
ordinances,
you know.
it may not
I know
be.
we wanted to, we talked about, getting some of the services that they provide, like, picking up the carcasses from the road. We talked about transferring that from the humane officers to sanitation, because of cross-contamination, because, you know, the truck where they carry the live animals, they're putting carcasses in there, and they have to go and sterilize the vehicle. So we tried to, a couple of years ago, but,
Well, we can have that discussion.
yeah, we can have that discussion earlier.
Yeah,
but-
we'll have that discussion.
But as far as privatizing it or having a humane society, that's.
I mean, I'm just asking that some thought be given into whether or not having police department and having, you know, is that the best approach to this
I'll,
type of service?
I'll check and see, number one, how the division was created, whether it's done under ordinance or by charter. I'm assuming because there are a lot of ordinances that are in place with the care of animals and all that, it may be something that has to fall, maybe under a city umbrella. There had been discussions at one time with NOAA, I'm not mistaken, to have them come in and assist and volunteer and help
We have a
with
contract
the,
with
yeah,
them.
we have a contract with them for
We have
the
an
adoption
MOU with
program.
NOAA.
But that's not for the caring of the animals, it's for the
No,
adoption.
that's just for assisting for adoptions and, yeah, volunteering.
Again, it could fall under code enforcement, community development, maybe looking at a reorganization, if not sourcing it out. I just really don't think that we're utilizing our police force for this particular service.
These
Is this a licensed officer?
These are two different
No,
officers.
these are non-licensed,
These are
these are
not.
civilians.
But you have Lieutenant Barrera overseas.
And I know, Diane, is, I know when David Vela was here.
That was
he
something we had talked
He was
about.
moving in that direction and then
Yes,
something happened.
most
But
cities have.
It is, that's a different department that we get, complaints, let's say, on a daily basis.
Yes, sir.
And let me say something,
We do too.
is that,
Yes, that's why I'm asking
is
about
that the
reorganization.
two
or
individuals that are
private.
working there, remember I said about dispatchers that you have to be, special?
Yes.
This department here, definitely, you, who would wanna go pick up a carcass that's been there 10 days? These two individuals have to go and do that, with no complaints. And then we get the complaints, which is fine, we deal with them. Then, well, hey, there's a cat over there, and then, I mean, we're overwhelmed with that. I mean, everywhere you turn, there's dogs and cats that just populate, you know, and I stand here and I'll do it. That would be a good idea for, not only is it a good idea for the police department too, but we're trying different things to try to make it happen. And it's just, it's not, you're not gonna make it from one day to another.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't justify the level of service when you have a lieutenant, a senior lieutenant overseeing animal control.
Do these calls come in to the PD?
Oh, yeah.
Where do these calls come into?
They go into.
Because that might be the
They call
They actually call,
dispatcher,
yeah.
they call.
We
Or
get
they just
them
call
here.
anywhere.
We get them here as well at administration.
Diane probably gets them, I get them.
I get them.
And we're trying, and I'll tell the public that we're trying to do the best that we can with what we have. And, you know, our two humane officers, I mean, they get there in the morning, they have to clean, feed, and before you know it, it's 3 or 4, they have to clean and probably feed before they leave again. You know, so and again, there's a state inspector that comes and does surprise visits.
Right.
And those we've passed, so we're doing something right.
Right.
Now, I'm an animal lover, I have cats and dogs too, but it's just hard to, you know, to, some of the calls that come to City Hall, I mean, they're practically demanding, and when we go and I know Lieutenant Barrera and I have gone to a certain residence and I don't see anything wrong, and it's just the way it.
Well, you know,
But if we stick to
there's
ordinance.
cruelty and then there's neglect. And, you know, if you have a caged animal 24 hours a day, or maybe that's not cruelty, but maybe that's neglect. So we need
Or
to look at
6
the
to a cage.
ordinances.
Because y'all's pound can only have 2 to a cage, right?
So,
Lieutenant Barrera?
We have 14 kennels, yeah.
but we have some reserved for the counties.
But legally, it should be 2 to a
Right,
cage. so
actually,
then-
it should be one, you
So
know.
see, you
One
see, so then when
over-
the citizen sees 6 to 1 cage, there's a problem.
And the thing
Ordinance
is,
too.
is that,
We have to keep them longer than we used to, is that correct,
Yes.
Diana? We used to, I believe, keep them 3 days, and now we have to hold them 5 days, which, in those 5 days, more animals are picked up, which means, you know, we have to provide food for those animals
Right.
and shelter for those animals, and then people come and that's my dog, and then they don't wanna pay to get the dog out. It's you know,
It's a tough
it's a
department.
very, very tough
It's a very
department.
tough
So-
Yes.
When we pick up, this is another big one for me. When we service county, our employees go out to county,
No.
correct?
No.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
No.
They
Okay.
have
The
to
county
be
has their
officer.
own animal control. I heard that he left, so they don't have one right now.
So,
I mean, they call us, but.
right, because
we
Rexy
have-
had told me that
we
they call
have
you.
enough to do here
Mhm.
that if we go right, we're gonna neglect left, you know, and that's just the way it is. So, I think Lieutenant Barrera is in the works of working something out, Lieutenant, with that female to get students.
Oh, yes, with Katrina Watson, she came over last week, and in fact, she texted me yesterday that she's got 2 students that are willing to help us manage our Facebook page to try to promote the adoptions and things like that. So,
Now, students can't volunteer, right? I understood correctly? Or at the pound?
Not for actually doing handling of the animals, no, but this would be just managing the Facebook page.
Social media,
Yeah,
the
where they
social
could,
media aspects of it.
And
promoting some of the animals.
We need to look at also at liability, you know, because
Yeah.
if somebody wants to go
Yeah.
clean it, what is a dog attack?
Yeah.
You know, and then I mean, we're in a liability
Or
situation.
an illness that could be
Yeah.
contaminated.
But by all means, what I look at is if somebody shows up tomorrow to do an inspection and we pass, we're doing it right. But yes, are we overwhelmed with animals? Yes, we are.
And I think because, you know, from a humane standpoint, looking to source it out perhaps might be something we should really seriously consider. But more than likely, you know, the biggest thing that stands out for us, how do we justify the level of service we're providing when we're using, you know, this is animal control, it needs to be under, you know, either source it out or let's look at reorganizing that.
I mean, we could source out the care of the animals, but as far as on the enforcement side of it,
Well, code
compliant,
enforcement.
yeah, code enforcement. could
That's what I'm
go-
saying, let's
yeah.
reorganize it maybe in animal control under, but I really like the idea of what Lieutenant Barrera just said, you know, the care being sourced out to a local humane society. Because that's their mission and that's their vision, the humane side of caring for these animals.
So we don't pick up any animals in Orange Grove and San Diego and
No.
We have,
county and all that, okay.
Now, county does bring to us sometimes, and we will care for them or house them for them, and we do charge them a fee for it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough.
Now, we are also the quarantine facility for the county. Our animal control officer is the designated rabies quarantine coordinator for the county. So all bite cases, if they don't go to a veterinary clinic, they come to us and we quarantine them for 10 days.
From a revenue standpoint, do we make, other than the county paying us for some of the services we provide to them,
Yeah, we
do
have.
we generate any revenue from the selling of dog licenses and dog tags and things like that?
Yes.
We do generate a little bit, not much.
Okay, but is that revenue collected for us from
Yes,
Alamosa?
they collect it for us,
Okay.
and we just actually, they called the other day that they had the money for us, so
Yeah,
we
'cause
sent the
I
humane
happened to
officer
be there and there was some individuals purchasing licenses and I'm like,
Yeah, no, they do.
Is that
do.
coming to the city or is
We
that
actually-
staying?
We actually did
Okay.
just pick up that
Yes,
money
I was
last
there.
week, as a matter of fact. you know.
A couple of weeks ago, I was there.
And there are adoption fees and, what is it when they pick up the dog fee?
Impoundment
When they,
fees.
impoundment fee, there you go. There are arrest fees for the dog and stuff like that.
So they're labeled coded ladies, dog impoundment fees,
Yes.
and the other things Miss Moran was talking about, like the.
Issuing of
Licensing.
I
dog
think
tag licenses.
The Jim Wells dog impound fee, that's when the county brings
Pays
us,
us
yes.
for-
When the girls bring in, any money that they bring in, they make a deposit and they drop it off at UB and then, I believe they
Where it
they have a
goes.
form that they turn in and then the money, gets placed in the proper
I get it.
account.
Each department has like their own revenue summary sheet where it's specifically like, those are the revenue items specifically for their department. So, I'm
So
sorry,
we
go
could
ahead.
request that, and
Oh, yeah.
it would be more itemized as to where.
And it'll show like the description and the line item that it goes to.
Okay.
And this may be a savings to the county as well if we look to the privatization of this to a humane society or nonprofit.
Okay, any questions on personnel? Okay, moving on to materials and supplies. So, going back to animal population, and you know, we had a concerned citizen that has a lot of valid concerns in my eyes. She mentioned the spay and neuter, which obviously we don't see laboratory testing supplies, first aid, medical supplies unless it's coded somewhere
We
else.
used to pay
We
for
used to.
that. When the animals were adopted out, one of the requirements was, or the city was actually paying for that. They adopt the dog and the humane officer would drop off the dog at Alamosa and then they would spay and neuter at a discount for us. It was a very costly thing for the city. We were paying thousands of dollars for these animals to be spayed and neutered. And some of them, unfortunately, you can't tell that they are spayed and neutered until you open them up. And so we were paying for that as well, paying for the animal for the flea medication because they can't operate if the animal is infested with any type of parasite. We just actually, we're done doing that. We spent, I can't even tell you, maybe over $20,000-$30,000.
Really?
Yes, it was
A year?
over the past when, I can't remember when that ordinance came into effect, maybe 2-3 years ago, and we spent thousands of dollars
remember.
getting these animals. And then some people wouldn't even comply, and we had the humane officers contacting the people, where's your cat? I gave it away. Well, why didn't you do it? You know, and then they were, you know, so it was just
It was on several occasions, and what brought it to our attention was that, let's say, and this actually happened, I'm gonna use some examples. We picked up your dog because it was roaming around. Okay, it was put at that location, and then you would come, well, I wanna pick up Rex. All right.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes, well, I'm gonna give you a ticket and you owe this and you owe that. Let's say it total to $100. Well, I ain't got $100, but I want Rex.
So leave it there.
Well, then they would leave it there, and then you would call Ms. Garza and say, hey, tell me when to go adopt Rex, that you saw it. Well, she would go, they don't know Ms. Garza. Oh, you want to adopt it? Yes. Go ahead, here you go. They would take it to Alamosa, do all the work on it, and then Ms. Garza would take custody and then give it to you. So we would get the same call, the same dog over here. So we'll go, hey, this is, you know what I mean? And they found the loophole, but we're paying, I mean, I think I signed some requisitions totaling $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, you know, in a month.
Every time.
In a month. They're
What do
pulling
other
their
cities
numbers.
do? Do they spay and neuter or no?
Well,
Are we, like,
I think it's important for council to understand the difference between a shelter and the, a shelter for adopting and what we provide, which is a service.
correct, but that's why I'm asking, what do other cities do?
Some
It's animal
cities
control.
do have those types of ordinances and things in place, but with the financial flow of cash, and this being in the general fund, it was one of the first areas that was seriously looked at, and it was a hard decision to make. But prior councils determined that they would do away with the ordinance.
And I know that Lieutenant and I visited, it was Captain White, I think he was in charge there in Corpus. And they had I think he was the captain in charge of everybody. But that was a state-of-the-art facility that I went to and saw, right? But they have those NOAA, 3 or 4 other
The
offices
organizations
there
are actually
that are,
operating it.
you know, and you know, but I mean, these guys are from Corpus. I know there was a lady helping us.
Cheryl Martinez from PAC.
She came over here and helped us clean, and she bathed some of the animals and stuff. But again, it's just hard to actually have them here every day, you know, because they have their own issues over there that they're working with, and then she kind of faded away. But I'm pretty sure that if Lieutenant Barrera or I called her, she'll be up to come.
So then she would volunteer too, so then that would be okay?
Everything was volunteer. She had no problems in it.
But, okay, so do we accept volunteers or not? Because I've had so many
Yes, we
people
do.
that say, okay.
We do accept volunteers, but we signed an MOU with NOAA.
Okay.
That NOAA manages our volunteer program.
Okay.
Because we had some bickering amongst different groups, so we gave the exclusive to NOAA.
Okay,
So NOAA, in fact, there's 2 NOAA board members that have keys to our facility, and they can come to our pound at any time, day or night. And go
Okay.
in there and take care of the animals, check on the animals or whatever. So NOAA, we have an MOU with NOAA, and any volunteers that wanna come, they go through NOAA.
go through NOAA, perfect. Okay, that's great to know, because I have a lot of people say, I would totally volunteer my time, and I'm like, well, I've heard we do accept and then we don't, so that's a great answer.
No,
So-
yeah,
they have
they
to go
can,
through
but
NOAA.
We'll
they
send
have
it
to
through
go through
NOAA.
NOAA.
Okay.
And then NOAA will coordinate with us and they
Okay.
can come. Yeah,
Perfect.
absolutely.
Because we might be able to do a roundup of animal volunteers, because I'm an animal lover too, and it breaks my heart. That department breaks my heart.
Well,
With no blame to anybody, it's just.
Just a quick
Oh.
announcement, Lieutenant, but PAC is coming back. They did receive their grant.
Another
again.
grant? Okay.
Yes, so they will be providing on a monthly basis. They will be organizing when the food bank
Okay.
comes on those scheduled dates. They're coming back. And it would be great if we could they will be doing spade and neutering. So
Yeah,
we can
absolutely.
take the animals that we have in our shelter at the time,
Yes.
take them out there
they will be providing that free of service to the public, and of course, we should
Okay,
try
yeah.
to capitalize on that. So if you want to coordinate with her, and as well, Parks and Recreation Board has talked about during that time, taking some of the, through NOAA, taking some of those for adoption out there while
Yes.
PAC is out there.
Okay, Katrina also said that
Yes.
they have an organization where they have a 5K run,
Yes,
and that they're.
through Rondo, they're
Yes, they
going
were
to
gonna
be,
come in and pick up some animals that
clean
were
them up,
adopted
wash them
and take them over
every
there.
first of the
Yeah,
month.
absolutely.
So that's gonna be happening
Yeah.
as well.
Great.
Okay.
Very good. So we got that. So spay and neuter totally out of the question. We can't afford it. Right? Is that the answer?
PAC's got a grant to do that.
It might be something that we can look at as far as grants and other things, but for the city to fund that right now, when the directive of council is to try and cut expenses, it's one of those things that you have to determine which other area you would like to cut in.
And again, if we source it out, privatize it, with the monies that we provide to them, they're on a volunteer basis, maybe they can do the spade and neuter program using some of these sites instead.
Okay. Any other questions on materials and supplies?
I have a question. Weed and pest control supplies. Another complaint has been that perhaps we need to strengthen our spraying out there, because some of the dogs that have been adopted, or when individuals go out there to potentially look for adopting a pet, they're infested with fleas and other types of
Ticks.
parasites. So I noticed we didn't put any monies in there for that. How are we controlling that?
That's one of the items that's
will
going
be
to
new
be
for
split out.
18.
Okay,
So
is
that
it-
would fall
So
under what
it's
then?
included
So where do we
in
have it?
Operational.
It's
5290.
right now it's under 5290.
So
The
operating
3750.
supplies, did we put some in here, Lieutenant Butler?
I think so, we have some money, but we were actually doing it in-house. Victor has some people that he utilizes from the street departments, and they were coming in
Not-
and treating our facility.
We had an individual who had the proper pesticide and applicator license. He is no longer employed by the city, so we are trying to get other individuals licensed for that right now. In the meantime, we're having to go back out to use the local companies for pesticide controls.
My only question with that is, what is the legal requirements when you're sharing a license with someone or another division or department?
As
When
long
that
as the
individual is the only
individual,
person licensed?
well, that is the individual that would be applying the pesticide. It's not like they hold the license and I would go out and do the application. There are very strict requirements through, and you're going to have to forgive me because I cannot remember
I know
the
this.
agency off the top of my head. But because we lost the individual that had the top type of license where he could have individuals under him apply, we had to stop that program.
Well, we just need to make sure we get that back out there and we're spraying for ticks, fleas, and other parasites. Weed control. I was out there, I went and I delivered some, during the food bank. They're also now giving out pet supplies, food and stuff. So I dropped some off. I get a little tour.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Moran. Any other questions on materials and supplies? No? Okay. Purchase property services?
You're going to see the reductions again to gas and electricity, a small reduction to vehicle repair and maintenance, and I'm not sure why. Building repair and maintenance service, I'm assuming that y'all are including money to continue the kennel project that we had.
Yes, the
Yes.
repair.
What's a kennel project?
Lieutenant Barrera, will you expand on the kennel project?
We're trying to just upgrade the kennels as far as the fencing. It gets rusty and so we're trying to replace that, some of the gates and some of the plumbing and electrical stuff that goes along with the pound. We're trying to upgrade it and make it better.
The actual kennel or the administrative building?
Well, the actual kennels, yeah, the office, we bought an air conditioner because the other one had broken, but we're not anticipating doing any work there, but for the actual kennels.
How do we keep the animals cool during these hot?
They have some fans, and we have had some individuals in the past that have donated some fans. So they have some fans out there that keeps the air circulating. Plus, we also have that canopy, the big barn roof that was built about 6-7 years ago, and that really has reduced the amount of heat that builds up in the kennels. So
Do you run any misters? Have you ever
No,
considered
we do
running
not
some
have
misters?
What's the purpose for the covering over, like, so they
keep the
can-
heat out and the rain and the
But on the
elements.
sides, like that plastic thing, over the sides, like you can't even see the animals.
That was to keep the wind from blowing through like during the winter and keep some of the rain out.
But it's always there, right? We
Yeah,
put it on and
it's
then we
only
take
there,
it
but
out.
it's on the bottom side of it. The top still has ventilation, so that's,
But the sides get ventilation? 'Cause
Yes, they
that's
do.
pretty extreme.
well, what we did is
And that
it's,
plastic's on the
it's
side.
a,
Plastic is
it's almost, you have to go there and see
Horribly
it. Well, that's the perception, but we moved the sheet metal that was right on the kennels, we moved it 5 feet out, which created an airspace. So the air, it's actually cooler in there than it was before, because we keep the heat out. You just have to go over there and see. But
I was there.
did you actually go into the kennels and
No, I
was it?
didn't want to.
Yeah. It's not as hot as
I was
it-
afraid I'd leave with a couple of dogs or something.
But, yeah, and then they have some flaps on the bottom that they can open for additional ventilation.
No, I just, the ventilation concerned
I
me.
just feel like that heat from that plastic.
It just concerns me about the ventilation. So if you can use some of this 700 net kennel projects to figure out
Yes.
how to get rid of that plastic.
Okay.
It's suffocating. Okay, any other questions on purchase property services? No? Okay, other purchased property?
Okay, communications are radios and cell phones
They have a cell phone
for them.
for when they're out on the
For the
road.
calls.
And the travel, because both, I'm not sure of both, but I know at least one
I think you
is
said Tim.
certified.
Tim will be
Yeah.
attending the
Basic euthanasia.
CEO course. He needs to do
Control
that,
officer.
and possibly the euthanasia this coming year.
Raquel has to recertify this coming year, but Tim needs the basic training.
Now do you see
No.
where you have,
I
you know,
know.
and
That's why I wanna
these
stay
two
in neuter.
individuals get criticized is the word that are not even it, right? But yet they come on a daily basis, they clean the kennels, they do their job, and they still, you know, they still get.
It's
and-
just
and
like
fine.
us, we do the same thing, we
I
clean
understand.
up and we still get.
Criticized.
The thing is,
Same thing.
the thing is that they don't give up, they come back.
Yeah.
You know, they want to do their job. And
Yeah.
Tim, I mean, Raquel's been there a while,
Yeah.
excellent. Tim, you know, he's doing a good job, and the two different characters. Tim is you know, he can visit with you and talk to you and make you feel good when he leaves.
Yeah, we're never going to
Personable.
please.
So,
all
you know what, we get the
individuals.
calls, we get the
just
calls
have
on a
to-
daily basis.
And Rex, I don't even think that's our concern, mine and Miss Moran's, because we're obviously vocal, because we think they're doing a great job and we understand that it's a hard job.
And I appreciate that.
It's the other little things, you know, that we see that, you know, we obviously can't afford, I
So
guess.
how long do y'all
Exactly,
keep
yes.
the pets out there? Until they're adopted or what?
5 days.
We changed the ordinance about 2 years ago
2
for
years ago.
3 days.
I'm
The what?
serious.
We changed the ordinance about 2 years ago, and we keep them for 3 days. And then after 3 days, they become property of the city. However, if there's some adoptable animals, they try to keep them as long as they can. They call rescue groups, and there's some rescue groups like for pure breed, huskies, bulldogs. There's different rescues all over the country, And when they have a nice animal that comes in and nobody claims it, they'll keep it for 10 days, a couple of weeks, depending,
nobody
until they can
comes?
try to get an,
And if nobody
Just leave.
adopts?
What happens?
Huh?
Euthanize.
If nobody shows up,
we euthanize it.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know,
That's
for the
great.
longest time, your local humane organizations have tried to get the city to pass to have a no-kill shelter. I mean, it is hard to do that because I understand the expense behind keeping, doing
we
the spade
already-
and
we
neutering and
are
then
a kill
keeping all the
shelter.
animals.
But then we're not doing anything to prevent the overpopulation, so it's like, at what point, because we can't afford to spay and neuter, and then we can't afford to keep them, and it's like, this is an ugly, vicious cycle, and I think I'm not alone in this.
And
It
that's
is.
why I'm saying, you know, turn this budget over to a privatization organization that looks at it from a humane society. And, you know, if they don't want to euthanize, then they need to use this budget to figure out a way.
Is the paper still going every week and taking pictures, doing
They
the pet of the
were.
week,
They
but
were.
they stopped?
They do it on Facebook. I know I see it every week on Facebook.
They're still doing
Pet
it
of the
every
week.
week?
The city of Austin has a do not kill policy.
Yes.
Maybe we can get some furniture.
Yes.
It's a large city.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Definitely something to look at.
And we understand we're poor, but we don't have to be cruel.
And we're out there also, guys, promoting, you know, bringing organizations to come out there and bring some pets to adopt them. You know, on a monthly basis now, 5K at the food distribution.
Or, you know, how the spay and neuter actually saved, I mean, I know we paid them, but there were still all these animals, you know, that were constantly coming in. Like, it was always full, so even.
It felt like it didn't do a dent, like it didn't
Right,
help.
like it didn't make a dent. I mean, they're just constantly.
So do we
10
have to
puppies,
enforce
one dog, 10
code
puppies,
more?
yeah.
Is that the problem, that going
Could
to
be an
code
issue.
and where they have more animals than they're supposed to, and find the source? Like, there's obviously a reason for this
Our city
problem.
has a lot of dogs.
A lot of it is that they're stray animals, so
Yeah,
they don't
they're
really
strays.
belong to anybody, so who do you enforce the code to?
Yeah.
I would start looking
Stray
at
puppies have
addresses.
puppies also.
I know my neighbor at the other place, she's like, that's not my dog. I know it's your dog, because you feed it.
Right.
Well, she
and
could be
actually-
harboring a fugitive animal, which actually is a fine that we have. So, yes, she would need to get a code for that, yes.
Yes.
There's an ordinance that
There
even if
is
it's not
one.
yours,
Uh-huh.
and you feed
Feed
it,
it.
it's
It is an,
yours.
Perceived
yes,
to be
it is.
yours.
It's perceived to be
Yes,
yours.
It is an ordinance.
And
Prove otherwise.
Citations are given, and I
Right.
have, you know, seen them go to court, when I've been there, and, they have to prove that, you know,
Animal's not theirs.
they got the immunizations for the dog, they took
Right.
it to, you know, did whatever they had to do, and if not, they get a fine, you know, they have to pay a fine.
Yeah.
But that still sometimes doesn't even keep, that there's that same dog, the repeat offender.
The problem I have is I'm extremely allergic to cats. And they love my house. And I can only shoo them off so many times before I can just have to run it like this, you know? So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, they're out
They
there and there's not a
know.
lot that you can do about it.
No,
So,
you know, cats are the hardest that people complain about, because it's hard to
We
trap a
can't,
cat.
I'm a cat lover, so yeah, we can't. There's, what
extremely
do you
allergic
do?
to cats.
Tie them up?
So I
Tie up
absolutely
a
hate cats.
cat.
Most of my pets have been strays.
Mine
All
are
of them
too.
have been strays.
Mine are
But
too.
I would like to see, do we keep records on those that have been adopted? Those
Yes, we
calls
do.
that we make to some of the organizations?
Yes, we
I'd
do.
like to see some of those records just to show that
We're trying.
we're trying and it's working and that we are adopting some of these pets.
That's
Oh,
how we had
absolutely. We have all those
that
records.
big amount from Alamosa.
Let's
They
get
were getting
some
adopted.
stats.
They were getting
on that.
There is some, and we'll get it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll get on that soapbox.
Yolanda.
Yeah, we had to. That's one of those. Near and dear.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll get off my
communications.
soapbox.
You get to Crispy over here too.
That was purchased property.
Yes. Yes, we covered other purchase property. We were in professional and technical
Communications.
services.
Okay, so professional, technical.
I stand by, the public has a right to know.
Okay. That's,
No.
Okay.
Actually, no, we went through medical evaluations and didn't we do registration?
we're at professional technical services
Thank you.
because there's
Thank
medical
you. Yes,
evaluation
yes, yes,
services
yes.
and I want to know where that goes
But
to.
that is going to be, the euthanasia euthanasia solution.
I had to ask, right?
And if we have to take the animals in for rabies testing, we pay for that. And the euthanasia solution, it's like a little cocktail of different.
Yeah,
An expensive one, too.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and we purchased that at Alamos.
How much is one of those? I'm gonna ask.
How much what?
A euthanasia kit.
It's
And
not
is
a
it
really,
per?
it's like a little, they're bottles, like,
Uh-huh.
you know, they have to buy the syringes, they have to buy the needles, they have to buy each solution to, I guess one knocks them out, the other one
It's
does
by
the job.
weight. They go by
Yeah,
weight.
Right, and it's by weight as well.
The bigger the animal, the more solution they need.
So we pay, maybe about $700 every time or more.
Every time you buy a full
Yes.
set, not
Or is that
per,
animal?
not per animal.
No, they buy.
Yeah,
Oh, no,
yeah,
I'm so
yeah,
sorry.
yes.
I'm getting casual.
We can find some
I think they
dogs
buy
that
5 vials.
Right, they buy the vials, I'm
The
sorry.
vials of
Yes,
solution.
the vials,
Five.
every time we have to buy the vials or the needles or the syringes, everything that we need, their gloves, it's about $700 to $1,000 every time. And then it all depends on how fast it goes.
Yeah, but when the way you said that initially, I'm sure there were some people who were going, there was 700 per animal.
700.
Yeah,
No,
we
I'm
could
sorry.
mail them out for less than that.
No, I'm so sorry.
I understand we have to move on, but I just have to ask, does San Diego have a no-kill shelter? No?
I don't even know that they have a shelter.
Actually, they do.
Oh, do
They have a very nice enclosed, air-conditioned shelter that was built using monies from the USDA.
From the
Yes, ma'am.
USDA, you love it?
Yes,
Like
ma'am.
a
You wanna go
grant?
visit? Yes,
Awesome.
USDA.
That might be something to look at.
Because I remembered, I was like, well, heck, if San Diego can do this, why can't Alice? If I'm not
Agree.
mistaken, they got their monies from the USDA.
Okay. That is good.
Very nice, enclosed, air-conditioned. Okay, it's big.
Okay, professional, technical, any other questions? And capital overlay.
There's nothing in capital outlay.
I'm sorry, outlay. Okay, any other humane questions? Okay, none? All right. Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all.
Great job,
I
guys.
appreciate
Thank
y'all's
you.
hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And we get criticized all the
We-
time. We got criticized for not raising taxes, we got criticized for raising taxes,
Yeah.
not raising taxes, always like.
We are still on the schedule from yesterday. There are still 22 departments that need to be reviewed. If we need to post for next week, we need to discuss that now, because to
Okay.
post for Monday, I need to post by tomorrow. We have fire department still, we have all of Public Works Utilities, all of Community Development, administration, HR, codes, finance, IT.
Thank you.
Grant, airports, and the multi-use center and golf course. Did you want to continue so I can get the fire chief here?
You can continue.
I called
I
him.
have to go.
Okay.
I would like to see this.
I'll be able to stick around, but I'll watch the video.
Okay. I'm good to stay.
He was here. I called to make sure he was here.
Are you okay to stay?
You need a break.
Yeah, you want like a little recess, and then we can continue. Mr. Chris has to leave, but
I
we still-
understand that. So I know what other because I have community development on standby. I've got everybody backed up.
Okay, so
If we
we were
can
gonna do-
discuss very quickly what that process will be for today, tomorrow, and if need be next week. We can continue with fire. You want to try and finish up the schedule from yesterday with the fire
Fire
department?
grants?
I'll check to see if Miss Barbara's available, because the time is now close to 5.
It's 3:30.
Fire department's probably gonna,
You think so? It's one? Your PD was like how many? 5 or?
Divisions,
Yeah.
how many divisions is fire, just one?
It's
Well,
admin,
technically,
support,
one
CID,
operation takes up-
patrol, and humane. It was 5.
Theirs is 5 too? No.
No, but fire. I mean, PD was 5.
But fire's what?
Fire
One,
is
yeah.
Operations administration.
Correct.
And fire
Yeah.
marshal, if
So
you want to
it's-
count him, either his own section or,
so,
Okay.
but our budget is all wrapped into one, so it's not
Correct.
broken down.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, it's one, PD was 5. So, optimistic. Should we take a small recess, like a 5-minute recess? Okay. Sorry, Chief.
Just 5 minutes.
Okay.
No.
No, it's not either. That is true.
Okay, good afternoon. The time is 3:45. This meeting is now in session. Well, we're going to start with fire department. And that is on page 35.
Beginning on page 35. For this particular division, the only individual that is not part of the collective bargaining agreement is Chief Van Nest. Similar to the police department, there are additional stipends that are taken into account for their wages as well. And also similar to the police department, we are in the process of doing entry-level firefighting exam testing. When we discussed on Saturday, we had proposed 5 additional entry-level positions. We cut that down to 3 additional entry-level positions. I'm sorry.
I think it was 2 additional, and we were going to remove.
Oh, sorry. It's 2 additional, and we are removing 3. And that savings equates to
The savings on the firefighters.
it's about $150,000.
Savings.
Yes, ma'am. The agreement that we currently have,
$143,232
$232.
for the 3 positions.
Do we have a total of 35 positions? Is that correct? On page 35?
It would go down to the 32 positions.
First. Okay.
Similar to the agreement that we currently have with the police department, the fire department has, as part of their negotiations, given up some financial concessions. They included the removal of the step-up pay provision, which is line item 5101 and 5109. Step-up pay is when, for example, a firefighter has to step into the upper rank of a driver. They are compensated at that hourly rate and not at the rate of a driver, of a firefighter. For now, that is going to continue until we revisit the contract here soon. The overtime was kind of touched on Saturday, and the measures that have been taken into account to help alleviate that cost. With the additional staffing of the 2 additional firefighters, we do hope to see a reduction to the overtime in conjunction with the changing of their scheduling and the policies and procedures, policies that were put into place to help curb and help maintain us having to hold individuals over for the shift.
Council, any questions on personnel services? No questions? Okay. Moving on to materials and supplies.
Wearing apparel 5220 for firefighters, it includes not only their uniforms but also their protective gear, their bunker gear. Their bunker gear is specialized and is rather expensive. There is a rotating schedule that they use for replacement on that, and they are anticipating, or they are requesting $25,000 for fiscal year 18. Revised, they're at $21,260, and actual 2016 they were at $15,495. Because there will be 2 additional positions coming in, they will have to requisition the gear for those 2 people.
And yet, the other thing that we have done is we have pushed some of those rotations back. We've gone into do testing of our gear, and where we can test, and if it needs to be repaired, get it repaired versus going out and buying a particular another set. But that will catch up with me at year 10 of the age of this gear, is because I'm only allowed to use that gear a maximum of 10 years. So I can't continue to keep pushing back, or I'm gonna have a big bulk, and then I will have to buy it one time.
Okay. Any questions on materials and supplies, council? No? Okay. On to purchase property services.
This is going to encompass, again, gas and electricity for the buildings that they have, which is Central Fire Station and Southside Fire Station. Vehicle repair and maintenance is going to be, of course, the big units.
The big unit there. And unfortunately, it's like this year, we've had one truck that has spent the majority of the summer trying to be repaired. And I had them run a report on it this morning since October 1st. This one particular vehicle has spent $36,282 in trying to get it repaired. And unfortunately, I can't sit down and say, we're done yet. You know, I know I'm just approved the order of a radiator, which was $2,000 some, and I still have work to do.
Chief, do y'all have natural gas? Do y'all do indeed
Yes.
use it? You
Yes,
do?
we do natural gas.
How old is that vehicle?
Believe it or not, it's 10 years old.
And you're having these kind of problems
Yes.
since when?
Yeah. And it's,
October of last year?
well, it started earlier this spring, summer. It started out with having the electronic command module that controls the engine function started acting up, the truck wouldn't run, and it just took us a lot of time to get through this one issue.
And who repairs these?
If we start with the service center can't repair it, then it moves out to, in this particular case, Fleet Pride, and where they work on it. So a good portion of that is basically outside services in doing that. So, and if we have to, we also bring in the manufacturer of the truck and their service representatives to work on trucks. So there's, like I said, this represents an extreme case,
Yeah.
but it's, you know, I've got a 1992 that's out there still kicking.
Still doing.
It needs some TLC on it, but, you know, but I can't take it out of service because I'm already down a truck. So, and this is that same issue, when we go down one truck, routine maintenance and things keeps getting pushed back. And so we keep being challenged to provide the same level of service, same amount of equipment, and still do the same things, and still have to work through issues like a truck that just isn't.
So have you approached the county about trying to help with some of these repairs?
No, ma'am. And this is where I took what I could with the county, because the truck that we put that money into from the county services the county more than it services the city of Alice. This particular truck, pretty much 80% of its call volume is inside the city. It's where it stays.
Council, any other questions on property services? No? Okay, moving on to other purchase property. Communications, is that your radios, Chief?
Radios and telephones.
Okay. Telephones?
Internet, you know. There's only 2 cell phones in the department.
Okay.
And that is the fire marshal and myself.
Okay.
Mhm.
Because y'all do not have internet access, or,
We do have internet access.
but y'all don't have laptops or,
We don't have laptops, we don't have anything mobile device other than the 2 cell phones
correct,
that can do mobile field work.
but no field work laptops or anything like that,
And,
right?
we have no internet connection, none of that goes out in the field with us. So everything that we do, you know, we come to your house, you know, we end up on our phone's name, address, phone number, you know, the address, so when we go back and do our report, you know, so that's the way we do it, you know. We're still
Old school.
behind it, if you want to use that term, but that's the way, it gets done, it's efficient, it works.
Any other questions, council, on purchase property?
Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but you had made some recommendations to cut some of the travel, correct?
Yeah. Basically, when we look at travel and training and registration, we can cut some of those. You know, our purpose will actually be use those to bring an instructor in versus sending staff out, because I can cover the whole department with one instructor and get everybody in the department the same class versus me sending a guy out and then him coming back and trying to work. So we probably can reduce that, but last year we had like $500 in that line item. That's kind of hard to do, to bring a guy in for 2 or 3 days and pay for their hotel room and stuff. So we can reduce it, cut it in half.
Do they charge you? The instructor charges you a certain fee or just?
Sometimes
lodging?
it's a certain fee, and sometimes it's just, they're free, but we gotta pick up,
Take care of their lodging and meals?
yeah, that or, you know, there might be a charge for the class, and I can just, you know,
Now, would we be able to invite surrounding?
correct, I can.
And then we charge them?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
And that's a possibility. And just recently, we hosted a class at the training center with TEEX as a driver simulator, emergency vehicle driver simulator. Over 80 people went to that training, and a lot of those 80 were from the volunteer departments, the sheriff's department, the police department. So we did do that in this round, but that class was one of those where each agency paid TEEX. We just hosted the facility.
Okay.
So your methodology is that you will bring the trainer here.
Correct.
Will that affect your overtime if you were gonna have?
Yes, it does affect my overtime.
So,
But, you know, I'm gonna, but what I
are we
can do.
gaining or losing here?
Yeah.
I mean, you're asking, you went from 500 to 49.
Like I said, I can cut that down, but
Well, I'm just, you know, what do we, I mean, if we're gonna have to pay overtime to get some of these fighters to come in from their days off to train, when in fact, you know, I don't know how you schedule your trainings with them, but
we
it's
try.
something to think about.
We try to get the most bang for our buck.
Absolutely,
You know,
yes.
and so that's how we get the most bang for a buck. If I can do a class in 8 hours, you know, versus, you know, like I said, sending a guy out and only getting one guy for it, I'm not getting a whole lot of bang for that buck.
And then you have to pay stay and meals.
But
and
why would you only send one guy? You don't
Because I
just
can't, because if I start sending more than one, then I start having to hire overtime again.
Anyway,
You know, and if I schedule it right, I don't necessarily have to
There would be the additional cost for meals and mileage
Right,
and travel
right.
and lodging.
I'm just asking, you know, have we taken into account the overtime?
But if we charge, we might.
Yeah,
But
you
those-
know,
those-
we charge the other set of two.
But that's the process we're working
Looking
towards.
at doing that.
We're looking at doing that and creating that mechanism where we haven't done that in the past.
Yeah, that would be
So
great.
we're trying to look at how do we change, and this is that challenge that we're faced with in the organization, and I've been saying it for a couple of years, is how do I add value to the organization without adding cost?
Correct. This is one of them.
And that's a hard line
It is.
to get through, but we're trying to figure out how to add value
Without cost.
without the cost. There's a lot of things that we feel like we can do, but when we sit down and look at them and say, yeah, there's a cost to that, but is that cost gonna get us, the cost benefit, is it gonna be there? So it's that process that we're still working through. I'm gonna say we're still growing and we're learning because we're looking at this in a different way. Used to be, we all looked at it as, we're firemen, we do the right thing, we go help people, and we don't worry about it. And now we're sitting there going, okay, we're firemen, we go still do the right thing, but what are we costing in the process? And so, and that's that really tough challenge in our business.
It is, I know, I
It
understand.
is, it's not one of those that we can just sit down and say, you can't go because it costs too much. That doesn't happen, you know, so it's that challenge of, okay, and so we continue to look at it, and there's a few times that, you know, I've actually said, no, we can't go because we don't have a resource or, you know, like that. I mean, we get down on equipment, nope, stop, we can't go. But that's my first stopping point is I don't have, if I go down to 2 pumpers, I don't send any pumpers outside the city limits.
Well, we certainly want to give you the tools that your officers need in order
Yeah.
to not only
So, and
protect
yeah.
the public safety, but themselves as well.
Yeah. So, and that's all we're asking for. Give us the tools so we can do what we got to do. You know, as me as chief, give me the tools so I can take care of those and make sure they have the tools.
Did we ever look at other grants, Chief? Like we had talked about, that other than your radio grant? I know we talked about that AirPack grant.
Yes, and we're waiting for that cycle to open up.
Okay.
So when that cycle opens up, we will apply for it. That's
Is there
gonna-
other, have you researched, because like PD does so much in grant request and I wonder if you've researched to see, you know, what, because I know there's help out there for firefighters.
There's help out there, and it comes in the form from insurance companies. And when it,
In the form of what?
from insurance companies,
Okay.
you know, and we've looked at a lot of stuff. And trying, sometimes those grants are very particular for, you know, yes, I can have a public safety education trailer, you know, but I got a 1-person fire prevention education section, you know, so.
I know that a ladder truck has been much needed. I mean, back in the days, we looked at getting a grant for a ladder truck. But Alice is in a neat, one, they're very competitive, the grants.
Yeah.
And Alice is in a unique situation because they're so competitive, they look at, you know, how many skyscrapers do we have? Do we need a ladder truck? Because, you know, how many
Yeah.
So and you're competing against big cities who have more. And so it is very
And
difficult.
there is a grant out there to help add staff. But that grant, again, they're looking for us to add staff to bring us up to the NFPA standards.
The what standard? Oh, the National Fire.
Yeah, the National Fire Protection Standard of hiring 16. And that's a progressive grant that starts out, they pay 90%, then it drops to
Starts, yeah.
80, and, you know, down to 45%, and after 45%,
city picks it up.
then the city's
Then
gotta
we
pick up
still
the bill.
Yeah.
And they're looking for you to keep those people on staff
Exactly.
when the grant is over. So is that a grant that the city can
Afford.
go after?
Correct.
I think
You
we
know,
looked at that as well.
So, while we look at a lot of grants,
They may not be feasible.
they may not be the grant that is for us. You know, like I said, there's grants out there, we can get laptops. Yeah, that's great, but do we have the infrastructure and things in place that doesn't, again, bring a burden on the city to pick up and try to put in place?
Well, PD hasn't.
Yeah, PD, but they're.
So we have the infrastructure.
But they went out and they bought a microwave radio system that worked and didn't work, and now they're back to using air cards, and there's their communications bill. They also have that benefit of the drug forfeiture fund. They can pull some money to help pay for stuff.
Can they share their laptops? I mean, once they're not, they get new ones and then can
The
they?
laptops are, their PD's laptops, to my understanding, is that they're specifically coded and locked down just for patrol.
Yeah.
And they're assigned to a unit.
But once they get new ones, what happens to the old ones?
We do recycling, but you have to remember technology is constantly changing. So by the time the PD or someone is in need of an upgrade, it's probably because the version of Windows or something that they're using is obsolete already, and it doesn't make logistical sense to pass it down. If it can, we will. But if it's something
But I don't
that's
think
not
that's a concern,
operational.
because he said he can get grants for laptops. He's worried about the infrastructure for it, but
Yeah,
I'm saying, that's why I said
you know,
PD has infrastructure.
Then we go back to using air cards, which again,
Just
which
explain it.
changes up the budget process.
Budget process, I think air
Yeah.
cards is the big one.
You know, so it works. And it would help us because there's information and things that we, again.
Yeah, how much of it would you need for a laptop? What kind of
I-
software?
Unfortunately, I'd have to be a tough book. And that laptop would actually pick up our fire management software that we already use.
Okay.
So, and,
It would have to have that capacity.
you know, and that's the piece that we have pieces of it in place. We just have to, again, have the resources to go out and get it. You know, we would love to do it, you know. Like I said, we go out and we can ask for the grant, doesn't mean that we're going to get it or not get it.
Well, we can try.
Yeah, and we
Go
can-
till
and we have
till
tried.
try. Okay, any other questions on purchase property? No? Professional technical service?
Chief has cut out his membership and dues.
Correct.
His personal membership and dues. Professional, the 5620, you're gonna have to remind me, Chief, what falls under 5620.
SCBA flow and fit test, ladder test, pump test, and I'm not sure, Vanessa, where do we have our software?
It's not under there, all I see under that line item are the fit tests
Yeah,
and
but,
the load test.
but,
It might be under your technical.
Probably under technical.
yeah, so,
Okay.
but so those are the things that we have to do.
Okay. Any questions, council, on technical service? No? Okay. Capital outlay?
The $12,000 that is in there is something that is for Southside?
It's actually for Central.
Central, okay.
That we do have an issue with mold. We're in the process of trying to get it remediated. And we just had to go back and do some additional testing. So all the potential vendors who could do mold removal do it and understand it correctly, and we don't upset the asbestos if we have asbestos available in the building. So we have tests for asbestos and lead. So we've got that done. So now we're in the process of going back out and rebidding mold removal. And after mold removal comes reconstruction. So,
Okay.
and once I know how much is tore up, then I can figure out.
So we don't have a figure yet?
I don't have a figure.
So it conceivably could be, we just put you in another building instead?
Not
No?
quite that bad.
Okay.
But it's an issue that needs to be addressed, and we've been working on it and addressing it.
Let me know what that old mall, does it belong to the city, or do we?
No.
No, nothing?
That's private.
That's private.
Need to look at doing something with that.
Yeah.
Perhaps making it into a public safety
Complex.
Complex. Okay,
Yes.
any other questions, council? No other questions for chief? Okay, thank you, chief.
That was
We,
I was expecting, but I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
doing a good job.
Okay, so grants,
So you're
are we gonna be able to?
Yes, I did call Barbara.
Thank you, chief, be
Barbara's on
safe.
her way.
Well, I think she's right there.
Find your
Just saw her
building.
walk. It starts on page 84.
84.
She's at the end.
Okie dokie.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi, Miss Barbara. Great, thank you.
Okay, grant administration starts on page 84. There is one employee, Miss Barbara Reeves, and this is her operating budget. Under personnel, no changes to salary. You will see the reductions again for health and life insurance and the differential for workers' compensation. There's a reduction there of $1,037 for this particular budget.
Okay. Any questions, council, on personnel services? Ms. Barbara? No? Okay. Move on to materials and supplies.
Materials and supplies, Ms. Barbara keeps a very lean budget. She, and had you made any?
She actually submitted some more
Okay.
cuts.
She deducted.
I cut,
$100, I think,
From,
for minor information.
minor tools and equipment.
It's 5296.
From her 5296, she took
Thank
out
you.
that $100.
Okay. She took that out.
Yeah, that was for a toner,
A
or a
printer.
replacement of a printer in case her printer, for that, because she does have one in her office, so.
But I can use the two on the third floor and the copier down here on the second floor.
Okay. Very good. Any questions, council? Materials, supplies? No? Other purchase property?
Under communications for Miss Reeves, she has a track phone, which is I understand it's a pay-as-you-go kind of phone.
Right, you get annually you buy a card
Right.
to get 400 minutes and a year's worth of service.
Okay.
So there's no change to that line item. Travel is for,
There are two, for Homeland Security Grant Program and the State Justice Assistance Grant, or JAG grant, that we apply to through the COG, and the applications ultimately go to the Office of the Governor, to Homeland Security Division and to Criminal Justice Division. In order to apply for those two programs, the COG has mandatory grant application workshops. And then you also have a workshop to present your project. So that's what the travel is for. It's to and from the COG.
And where is that, Ms. Barbara?
On Leopard Street in
Yes, ma'am.
Corpus. I think it's 2910 Leopard Street.
I know, where's that? Okay, and advertising, huh, where does that, what is that for?
In case we have to advertise for any grant project,
Okay.
or any project we already have.
Mhm.
And if the department involved doesn't have advertising money, then we use
I
money from
gotcha.
my budget.
Okay. Very good. Any questions, council, on other purchase property? No? Okay, professional technical service?
she has just the membership and dues.
That's in the American Grant Writers Association.
Okay. Any questions, council? And no capital outlay. Grant development. That's it. No questions, council?
Pretty straightforward.
Any questions? No?
How long have you been with us, Ms. Reeves?
I started my 13th year this week.
I just noticed though that you do a lot of the PD grants.
Correct.
Is that, what's the percentage of the
Oh,
work in
I
grants
help-
that you do?
I help all departments with any grant projects they have. And it just so happens that emergency services have quite a few.
How much percentage would you say you do with emergency services? And then how much do you do in community development? Because I noticed we've seen a decrease in home program grants and CDBG grants.
The city stopped doing home grants. The last home grant was completed after I got here, and that was the last home, no, that wasn't the last home grant. There was one several years ago when Ms. Bueno was Community Development Director, and we applied for a home grant for one homeowner. And it was under the trust account through that program. And the homeowner and her family kept waiting and waiting. We never heard back from the state whether we were awarded. And so we recommended the homeowner apply to another agency, and she did. And so that was the last one.
What about Parks and Recreation grants?
Again, when Ms. Bueno was Community Development Director, we submitted to Texas Parks and Wildlife.
How many years
And
has it been since you've applied
I'll have to
for
look it
community
up.
development grants? More or less,
Um,
5, 10 years?
No, I can't remember when Yolanda moved. We did one for Craig Park in 2015. And prior to that, we did
Is that
Craig
Texas Parks
Park-
and Wildlife?
No, that was through Wells Fargo
Oh, okay.
Foundation, our corporate giving program, and we received $2,500.
Okay.
Prior to that,
I'm talking about,
Texas Parks and
I'm
Wildlife, we
talking
did
about
apply.
bigger grants.
Well,
that
we did,
are
we
certain.
applied to Texas Parks and Wildlife for the same project for Craig Park, but
Yeah.
the application didn't compete well in the category we were in. And I'll have to look up the years for that.
Actually, Craig Park had been through an upgrade through some
But,
grants.
so we
prior.
did apply for that, under Texas Parks and Wildlife and Wells Fargo, working with Josh and his team to apply for funding, this funding cycle for skate park. And we had talked about Veterans Park. And that funding cycle is coming up in October. So, to get back to your question about percentages, I'll have to go back and look how many Homeland Security
Well, it
and
just,
JAG.
And we did have
Yeah.
EDA. I worked on a
EDA.
lot on grants. That
Uh-huh.
used to be my thing.
EDA.
And
That's-
we,
The
it kind of
EDA.
depended on the administration too and where they wanted you
and
to
that's where I was
focus.
going with this.
And I know we were real
Priorities.
big with EDA grant, like those types of things, but we've always made sure at least like the Homeland Security, nobody really not nobody wanted, but
They always, we
It
pass
focused.
along the notices and the departments respond that they're interested. And so we get, like Vanessa said, the Homeland Security, the response would be from PD and from Fire Department, because those are the departments.
you do need a
involved.
lot of their cooperation in gathering the data to even apply. Yeah.
Right, and so.
I understand.
And EDA, community development, parks.
Fire used to get, I remember there was one, I just remember College Station, wasn't there like a,
Oh, that's right.
and they would
TIFMAS.
pay for their their training, their registration?
Texas A&M Forest Service.
Oh, okay.
TIFMAS. No, that's.
Yeah,
it's-
TIFMAS, I think.
It is Texas A&M.
Okay.
It- And we worked with Dean and Patrick, and the fire department got several grants for training.
Is there a reason why y'all stopped?
I know I brought it up one time, but I don't know why he said they stopped. I don't
Well,
remember.
No, I'm talking about community development grants.
Nobody would, I rely
Saying the
upon,
administration?
well, and departments will say, is there a funding opportunity out there, or we have this project, can you help us look for funding?
That comes on a cycle, so that's,
Yeah.
you're gonna be applying every
But-
2 years.
But also, wasn't there and I remember just because when I first started, they were closing out one of those grants. Didn't they have additional staffing for
For
the home grant? And we didn't have that person anymore?
Yeah, we don't, we had a housing coordinator who
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, well,
And then
that was
he left.
that was through the grant. They were
Through the
there
grant.
just as a
Like a temporary?
attempt through that grant. And then Yolanda Bueno also was
Right.
there, and then she transitioned into code enforcement.
And We've also, in the past, gotten solid waste grants through the COG.
The COG.
And those help fund Operation Brightside.
Yes.
And then those funds diminished. And we also got funds through that program to help haul tires from the
Yes,
landfill.
the recycling center was upgraded and Operation Brightside.
And
All of those were parts of the grants.
They used to
for
also
community
pay for the code office, or
Right.
the
We
office.
got it.
And it was one of those things where they paid 100% the first year, the
75.
second year 75, the third year,
Yes.
and it was to that the city would eventually take on the
That's
full
how
cost.
Yolanda came on board.
Oh, also,
That's how we got Jennifer.
oh yes,
Yes.
And what happened to the equipment for the illegal dumping, the cameras and all
We
the
did-
equipment that?
We did get a camera. We got a
no, I think the
camera.
COG.
No.
I think we got it through
Through the solid waste grant,
And it was put up at the recycling center, and then used other places.
is it still being used?
I don't know.
I'm not too
But
sure.
we did get that through that program.
Right.
We got,
Yeah, I actually wrote that grant.
so
Where's the equipment?
I'm sorry, what?
now,
We used to place it, you know where's that place where all the tires are being thrown, over there,
Oh.
where the San Diego Creek Apartments? That's really bad.
Eastern.
Okay, I just wanted to get an
Well,
idea of what kind of grants we're writing and
there-
where's the percentage of grants going?
In the past, it's been, departments will say, we've got this need, can you help us look? And now that we have a CIP,
Exactly.
there's
Street infrastructure needs.
there's a comprehensive picture of the entire city's needs. And so that helps me, as I see things come across my desk, I can say Demetrio, chief, other chief, Josh. So now that we have a CIP, that helps all of us to be able to focus on, okay, if Demetrio sees something that'll help another department, he'll share with that department, and then we'll put something together. So we have a picture now, a comprehensive picture that will help us broaden.
So before you just felt like you had no direction, or?
No, I had direction because I worked with certain departments. I knew what their needs were and I could continue working with them, but I didn't know all the departments. And over the past few years, I've been working with water, police and fire, and library. We've gotten quite a few grants through a foundation for the library summer reading program. We reapplied this year, and then we just finished our third grant application for the library and mailed it today. And by the end of October, we'll know about those 3 applications we put in for the library since the spring of this year and this month. So over the past, been working with emergency services, library, water.
I can't find my organizational chart, but you fall under what?
Finance.
She falls under finance.
Is there a reason why they moved you from community development?
She was always, and she wasn't under community development,
was
she
the
was under
position that was
administration. Mhm.
I was under administration.
Weren't you community development director?
For 5 years.
And
And
then
then the grant developer position was created and I was moved there. And then I was under admin. I reported directly to the city manager.
Do we know why we created a grant development?
It was a prior city manager.
Several administrations ago, I'm not really familiar with the details.
Any other questions, council? No? Okay, Ms. Barber, thank you very much.
Okay, Barbara.
Have a nice day.
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay,
Let's work.
so Ms.
Helps the
Lopez,
community, though.
you recommend it's 4:30.
It's up to you all. We can break until tomorrow, but we still need to do, and again, I am posting for Monday because my deadline is tomorrow to post for Monday. We'll start at 9 a.m. Tomorrow we had scheduled Public Works operations, which is street sanitation, landfill, garage. But we have not gotten yet to community development, which was scheduled
That was
for today.
supposed to be today.
I need to get with the department heads because they had set times away from operations and other things to see if I can swap them or what is the best scenario or solution there. Those are going to be the bigger umbrellas. What'll be left are city council's budget, city clerk, city manager, general services, which encompasses most of the operations that fall outside of a normal department, civil service, finance, HR, and IT.
Could we knock out city council, like right
Yes,
now?
ma'am. If y'all want to do that, we can do that right now. That's going to start on page 10, and there have been some proposed cuts to y'all's budget.
How dare you cut our big budget?
I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry.
Wow.
We like your budget.
So, to start with personnel, and it does start on page 10. So the personnel expenses is what the council's entitled to under the charter. And we have one member who has elected. We're still waiting. I'm sorry, we've heard from 3. There are 2 that I still need to talk to see whether they will be taking their monthly stipend or not. And if they're not, then there will be a smaller reduction to this budget. And we'll get with those individuals and speak with them away from here.
And what happened to me here?
What do you mean, what
I'm
happened
sorry,
to you?
I don't know. Maybe when I was looking, I saw that you hadn't elected yet to. Sorry. Sorry.
And again, these are proposed, and this is why we have these to catch things like that and to correct them before we publish the adopted. I apologize, Mrs. Garza.
I'm very sorry.
Hey, council, any questions on personnel?
I'm so sorry. It was not intentional anyway. It was just me looking and seeing who was.
Vanessa, remember that drink?
No questions on personnel services? Can move on to materials and supplies.
Okay, so office supplies, what was happening, and to get a better actual portrayal, all of council's operating supplies were hitting the city clerk budget. So I did budget for this coming year $500, and that's going to cover all the materials for the year, your packets, any distribution, the budget books, and any paper supplies, things of that nature. The wearing apparel, the 5220, is something I was proposing to remove, but I wanted to get
I say remove it.
Okay.
Remove it. We can do our own.
Thank you.
What was that, shirt or something?
Yes, ma'am, we would put aside for prior councils some additional shirts.
We can do without. Printing and publishing.
Printing and publishing, actually, that looks like is that a new line item for me?
That's a new one.
That's for, like, the nameplates or.
Cards.
Or the
Oh,
card magnets.
okay, yeah,
for
that
the-
would, and that's something
card
that we
magnets
would
for
need
the-
to probably maintain in the budget, but it's for the business cards, your name placards, things of that nature.
Okay.
Um,
And catering, we cut.
We're working on those.
That's okay.
Catering, I am proposing to eliminate,
Okay.
unless council would like me to
Oh.
keep some monies in there.
Say take it out.
I was going to cut it completely, but what about when we get the drinks? I thought about that the other day. Like the
waters and
drinks.
sodas. We could reduce that
A little bit.
significantly and leave a little bit in there, because the meetings do run lengthy, and waters, sodas, things of that nature. If y'all are okay with that.
Like what?
I would say that because we do have out-of-town guests that come.
Okay, so you would
Sometimes they-
like to see just a
A significant
reduced-
reduction, but enough to cover some, light.
Maybe leave like 1,000. I mean, that should be for drinks and maybe trays, like, or $7.50.
I would just, I mean, the minimum.
Just the
Like
drinks?
fruit trays.
The fruit trays,
Yeah,
a
and
sandwich
like the
tray.
little, pastries and things like
Right.
that. Small, not full meals.
But that adds up too.
That's what I'm saying, or do y'all wanna
For-
just drink?
Maybe not every
I think
meeting,
just
but-
drinks, and because we're here for business, and you know,
We do have out-of-town guests that come, and we do keep them late sometimes.
but would that come out of council's budget?
Normally it does,
It
yes. It's for a council meeting, so
You
it
know, we have
encompasses that area.
our outside counsel that comes, we have our financial advisors, other guests that are gonna do
But, well,
presentations.
What we could do is reduce it by $5,650 and leave $750 to $1,000 in there. Is
I
that?
guess that would be.
I was thinking 500, but that's fine.
What was that, 1,000 or 500?
You all tell me if you want to, maybe you want to split the difference and do 750.
I said
500 is plenty.
Okay.
If we run out, then we bring our own. That's the way I see
Round
it.
back.
Ever to each his own. We don't feed you at our meetings.
What do we have hitting 5290 right now? And I'm assuming it might be,
Sometimes it's just supplies that y'all might,
I'm actually thinking it might be the proclamation plaques.
oh, yeah.
It's the proclamation plaques.
Okay.
And that has been, if you'll notice, has been significantly reduced over time. Yes.
Oh, well, that's where the business cards were and the meals, refreshments, the plaques, proclamation.
Proclamation
Yeah.
plaques and things of that nature.
Yes.
Oh, so we're recoding.
We're recoding.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
Subscriptions we have removed. There used to be some members of council who belonged to a specialized organization, but nobody on council currently belongs to that, so I removed that from the budget.
Okay.
Of course, there would be no vehicles, equipment, or building repairs or maintenance or anything for the city council. Communications, you'll see a significant reduction. That is for the phones that council has that we communicate with you all, and it's been reduced significantly. Travel, there is a little bit of travel in there. It's council's decision whether they want to keep 5540 and 5641, which is registration and training. The bigger conferences that council usually attends is the TML conference in October, and it would be a significant increase to what is proposed here. So
I chose not to go to the previous one, and I'm not looking to go into the October as well. And if I do,
I
will
would, what I would
announce
propose, and because there will be some travel that council will have to do to get the proper certifications for FEMA, I'm going to reduce it, but keep enough in there for mileage, and that's something that'll be going out to council September. I believe it's the either 17th, 18th, or 19th, or 18th, 19th, and 20th, that will need to travel to Falfurrias, which is the closest place that they will have this training, so that we're properly certified and have the proper training for emergency management. Okay. So I'll keep just a little bit in there to cover that.
How much are you gonna leave in there?
Yes, it'd be NIMS training. NIMS training. Membership and dues. I don't know.
I think they remember, the prior council were, was it TML?
Yeah, let me double check.
I think they had some memberships with TML.
I would say, I recommend removing that. If you want to be a member, pay for it yourself.
I think those are like, if I'm not mistaken, those are like per person.
I don't know.
Actually,
It doesn't look like they've, it doesn't look like they've used it.
I was gonna
at all.
say, it
Maybe
doesn't
that
look
was
like
just
they
something that
used
you
it.
thought
It's
they
never
might
been
want
used.
to.
We don't
maybe.
need it then.
Mhm.
I'm trying to go back and look. I'm at 2013 and I still haven't seen any.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's just something
So we can remove that as well. And we'll reduce 5641. I believe there's a small fee for the training in Falfurrias, but I don't remember if it's $10 or $20. It's something very, very small.
We can pay our own.
We can do that if y'all want.
Remove that.
Yes, ma'am. We will.
We're pretty simple.
Yes, ma'am.
And you know, the communications,
Mhm.
will that come into play when Jim's gonna renegotiate
You know,
or anything?
you know what, I was gonna bring that up. I just remembered, I was looking at that, and what happened was, there was a miscoding, but I don't know if we wanna move it back or not. Jim had to get like special internet for the council meetings, like, a Time Warner. There's some sort of internet for him to, put the meetings, I guess on
YouTube.
and I guess to have the internet capacity.
On Channel 5.
And it was always coded to council because it was for the council meetings, and then for some reason it started getting coded to 105. But I don't know if that's something that, because usually 105 is like for everything
Everything
in the
else.
city hall. So we can just leave it there, or we can bring it.
I would be of the notion it's better served in 105 because
Okay, it's for
while
all.
it may be the council chambers, there are other
That might use it.
There are other boards and commissions who might utilize that service. I think it better be suited in 105, and it might have changed when I went and became city clerk and started coding it to 105. So that probably is better suited in 105.
Okay.
Okay. And that's rolled into
Yes, ma'am.
communications.
It'll come down.
Okay, so that'll come down. Okay.
Yeah, all that should be hitting there are the 5 council phones.
And on the travel expense, we were gonna change that
Yes,
a
ma'am.
little
We're
bit.
going to leave a little bit just to cover the NIMS training that you all need to receive. And I'll calculate what that'll be, but I'm thinking maybe 200 is what needs to stay in there.
And that's a required, right?
Yes, ma'am. All council members, along with staff and others, but because you are council and the governing body, are required to have this training in the event of a hurricane or an emergency. It prepares you to be in the operational centers. Without it, you wouldn't be able to set foot in there.
Correct. Okay. Very good.
And our salary and wages will also
Yes,
change.
ma'am. As I finish through there, there'll be some small reductions there as well.
I don't have problems with mine.
I'm
I'm
so
Mrs.
sorry. It was not-
Garza.
I mean, it was so horrible.
That's okay, just,
Okay, council, any other questions on council? No?
city clerk.
I may not be ready for my own budget, believe it or not. But
Next, real quick.
if you want to do 106, which is civil service, that'll be a very, it should be a pretty simple budget. That starts on page 22. So civil service is the budget that we use for all the administrative services when it comes to civil service, which is fire and police. This is governed under Local Government Code 143. There are no full-time employees to this department, so these are strictly expenditures. We do have a Civil Service Commission that is the governing body. Oh, we're on page 23.
23.
Oh, 23.
There is a Civil Service Commission. It's composed of 3 members. We meet depending on how often we have to meet. Lately, we've been having to meet pretty often because of all the promotions that are happening with the police and fire department. So what is in that office supply budget is to cover their agenda packets, their paper, their expenses, things of that nature. Historically, it's run about $437. We adopted $350 at revised for 2017. I was asking for $250 because we are anticipating additional hires and some other requests from the chief that will need to go to the commission. I'm asking for $300 because I'm probably going to need a few more meetings this coming year.
Council, any questions? Materials and supplies? Books, Diana? What's-
Books
what
have
is
gone, okay, so let me explain books. Well, operating would be very simple things for the commission, that's 5290. 5291 is books. So when we promote in the police department and in the fire department, there are source lists. There are materials that the chiefs determine. This is what we're testing on for this particular rank, and there is the test maker who uses those sources to generate the test. The source material that we currently have for the fire department is very outdated. It's been posted for several years, and it's time to revisit that. We do purchase a set of books for the director, which is myself. We purchase a set of books for the test maker that we receive back. But we also purchase books for the Central Fire Station and for the Southside Fire Station that firefighters can use to check out as they're studying for the exams. And that's why you'll see that expense in there that wasn't in there in 2016, but you're seeing in 2018. The revised for 17 was because I had anticipated testing for police, and I had already knew I would need books there.
This would be just because we're trying to replenish outdated materials.
Source lists, they should have probably no more than 3 years. The source list for the fire department, I believe, was posted 2011 or 12. So it's time to replenish that and relook at it.
Okay. Any other questions, council? Materials and supplies?
My travel for civil service has been cut. I normally pay for my conferences, or Chief Ramon was very gracious in being able to cover from his budget last year. Other professional, 5630 is going to be the 5630, I believe, is my lawyers for civil service. There are attorneys for civil service. They handle all of our 143 issues, all of our labor issues related to fire and PD, and most importantly, they handle the contract negotiations. Medical evaluations and services, 5638. This is where, when a firefighter or police officer is promoted, they are required to submit to a physical, and this is where it would come out of. And because we are anticipating promotions through the year, I am budgeting for that expense. For me, for this particular budget, 5640 technical service are my test writers. We are going to have to purchase, like I mentioned earlier, entry-level testing for PD and fire. In addition, we will need promotional monies set aside in the event of a vacancy, and I have to start that process of testing through the ranks.
So technical or test?
Yes, ma'am, those are my test writers. And that is the civil service budget. So it did go up some, $3,440, and the majority of that is attributed to the testing in the books.
Due to new hires, correct?
New hires and anticipated, promotions through the year. And more importantly, the updating of the source material.
Council, any questions? No questions? Okay.
We can do
106.
Do y'all want to do 104?
Sure.
Which is administration. Excuse me, that's your city manager budget. That's going to begin on page 15. We are budgeting, of course, for a city manager. The salary that is in there is the salary that was there last year of $100,000.
Diana, do you
Yes,
think
ma'am.
that's, should this be the time when we bump it? Because
Something to think about. You may want to perhaps wait till Mr. Crisp is present, where you can all have that discussion. But I don't, and I'm not quite sure if you're going to be able to attract.
well, We're
a
not.
qualified individual for that amount of money.
That's my reason for concern. I really don't want to budget this amount when we know we're not going to get the right, or not the right, but
No,
Most capable person.
the most qualified. And you do want to be able to, you have to understand that a city manager, if it's not coming from close in the area, is going to have to pick up a family. They're going to have to move to the area. They're investing not only their talents in our community, but they're trusting that they're going to make a life here.
we're a little bigger than, like, this would be a tiny town to me, looking at salaries and stuff. This is not.
I really think that we can find someone qualified
At
with
100,000.
experience. I'd like to see
And
instead
that's-
that money's put into an assistant city manager.
Ooh, that's a whole nother
Yeah,
beast
that would-
there. That's a
yeah.
whole different position, huge
What
position.
I would suggest we do, and this is something that'll be going back to council soon. We've been focusing so much on budget. There still is the process of searching for someone. We probably need to do a salary survey and determine what other communities in the area and similar size and statute are compensating their city managers for, and then look at that possibility.
Inquiries, though. Have you not had inquiries of people who perhaps may be interested?
We have
Ask about-
we have received some emails asking where is the posting for the city manager position. I haven't checked credentials or anything of that
Right,
statute
right.
or where they're coming
We
from.
are getting
but,
inquiries, so.
we have had some interest in it
Mhm.
because, you know, TML, of course, word travels when city managers leave. So, again, I think that for now, if we could maybe skip over the personnel, I think that is a conversation that collectively as a council you all need to determine with what you're comfortable in setting that with.
Okay.
We did maintain and we separated out under 5180 the car allowance that was being applied to the prior city manager, so that is still in the budget.
What happened to the vehicle the city had?
We have not had a vehicle for city manager in several years.
It was the expedition that
That the fire chief is
drives now.
using. But several years ago, I think it might have been 2010, 12.
It was when Mr.
Well,
Gonzalez was here.
It's been several years, and we don't have a vehicle to provide to a city manager. We'd have to
Does the
essentially
chief have one?
purchase one.
Police chief?
If he purchased those vehicles with forfeiture funds, then they can't be transferred over as a fixed asset to
But
the
he
city.
can alternate another, it's worth asking. I don't see us, I mean, we've never, I don't see this car allowance.
Well, it was a way also to compensate as far as the compensation package. You know, the salary plus a car allowance plus whatever additional benefits had been agreed upon with prior councils and prior city managers.
Diana, have we had an assistant city manager before?
We
Long
did
time ago.
several years ago. We had an assistant city manager, came back to be our city manager for a little while. And then when prior administration was here, and you have to understand I'm HR related, so I don't want to say names. The determination was made to have the finance director share the responsibility of the assistant city manager, and that happened for several years. And I guess it's been about 2 years now that they completely did away with the position of assistant city manager. So for 2 years we haven't had one. There had been some discussions. The duties are actually on someone
Already.
for some time, but there is not a formal position for that. You know, as things look better and brighter, it's something that we probably need to look at and consider, because you do need your assistant city manager not only assists, but they handle a lot of the operational issues. More importantly, they're probably the person that if someone has a concern are going to go to first before it's taken to the city manager. So that is currently not discussed or included here, but.
Because we can't afford it.
Yeah.
Well,
We're cutting.
Well, we haven't looked at reorganizing
Right,
the
and-
organizational chart yet, so
And those will be
there may be
discussions that will
some cost savings there.
come in,
Other
yeah,
positions.
come in other arenas. But for now,
I think we need a city manager first before we worry about an assistant.
so that's your personnel proposed right now in 104.
You know, we've been able to attract CPAs, we've been able to attract city managers with professional licenses for a lot less. Granted, we are, a different time, but we also are in economic downturn, and so are a lot of other cities are doing cuts. So these individuals are out there who are looking for jobs. So,
I guess when we get
Just
to
one
that,
thought.
Ms.
Yeah,
Lopez,
you
you can
can-
But
get
just
a
keep
comp
that in
for
mind.
us of,
Yeah,
of-
and you all would be the ones to set that salary.
Mhm.
So
I just hear that all the time. Oh, no, they're not gonna come for this salary. Well,
and
I've
we
talked to
don't
a
know.
lot of people who are credentialed, and they're like,
Well-
"You're not gonna get
well,
somebody.
not
You're gonna get
someone
young
who-
and inexperienced and desperate." And
You know, all of it depends on what the objective of
Boundaries,
council is and what, what they wanna attract and who they'd like to attract. And, again, this is a discussion probably for a later date
Mhm.
when we have that basis of information for you
Correct.
all to be able to look at.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Materials and supplies.
Basically, everything from this division has been cut. They cut out, of course, the office supplies, the operating supplies, and the subscriptions. The reason for that is basically because city managers tend to share the supplies with city clerk, so there's no sense in having them in both budgets.
Purchase property. Nothing.
There is monies budgeted again for a cell phone and an iPad for the city manager. And there is travel budgeted for the city manager to include, of course, any conferences or continuing ed credits if he is or she is licensed or accredited in anywhere that they can continue their education.
Okay. Any questions on that, council? No? Okay. Professional, technical?
We included and kept the $300 for dues. It's not uncommon for city managers to want to be members of ICMA or can't remember the other affiliations, but we did keep that in there, as well as a small portion for registration and training. It was reduced by $665, but I felt that those were, at a minimum, something that probably needed to be kept in there to again make it attractive to a city manager.
Okay. Any questions, council, on the city manager? No? Okay. Done with 104.
And it's 4:53, so if you all want
Okay.
to call it a day, or would you prefer to, okay.
So tomorrow morning at 10.
Tomorrow morning at 10 we are posted, and I'm not quite sure if we will be focusing on public works operations or on community development.
Can we start with community development since that's
Let me,
if it's okay with everybody?
I need to check schedules
Okay.
first, because we are, community development, of course, encompasses the golf course and the multi-use center, so I need to check their schedules as well.
Okay.
So we'll start with one of those, and then we'll continue in between with the smaller departments. And like I said, I did post for Monday at 9 a.m.
Perfect.
Not Saturday, right?
No, ma'am, not Saturday.
I get
Unless
s-
you'd like to be
No,
here.
no, I'll get to sleep late.
Actually, I couldn't even post for Saturday if I wanted to, so.
Okay, agenda item number 4, adjourn and or consider and act upon adjournment. I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to.
Okay, can I get a second? All in favor? Okay. This meeting is now adjourned. The time is 4:54, August 17th. Thank you, everybody here and whoever's watching.